what episode? We don't have to clap, I don't think.
I'm
Jay?
gonna
33.
clap. I'm
Yeah,
gonna clap.
You can clap if you want to. I don't need it though. You can dance if you want to.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the One Take Podcast, episode 33.
Yeah, sure.
I should have looked that up before. Episode 33. This week we are actually doing a good film. That's back-to-back weeks of good films, folks. Count it down. We did it, team. We did it. They said we couldn't do it. The liberal media was saying that we couldn't do it, Dex, and we did it.
We fucking did it. Let's fucking go.
We are doing the Prestige this week, a Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale banger. This movie was so good. Oh my God, I forgot how good this movie is. But first, we shall start out with the news of the day. Caitlin, you're not having a good one.
I'm having a horrible week. Like a really bad day and a horrible week. I haven't slept in like maybe 24 hours because I literally threw up throughout the night and then had too much stuff to do to go back to bed. And I also found out my grad program's fully online, which means that sucks for English.
This is Caitlin's
online.
flu game.
Yeah, I'm not doing great. And like, I don't even have the coronavirus to like claim I'm part of this plague. Like, I have like the no sympathy, like sad stomach flu. But like, no one
Help
feels
me, I'm
bad.
throwing up.
Yeah, like help.
Nobody gives a shit.
And everyone's like, just be grateful you have your lungs. And I'm like, I don't
I also am in pain right now. Just be thankful you can breathe.
Can you breathe? Shut the fuck up.
You have the sickness that people use to say that the coronavirus isn't that bad. Like,
yeah,
so
literally.
You can't talk shit.
It's been a bad time, yeah. I don't know. How are you guys?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Better than you.
I'm glad. Honestly, I'm glad.
I'm well rested. I had some drinks last night. I took a nap today during some golf. Like I'm just having an actual weekend. This is the first weekend I've had off. Like I think in my 4-year career, I've always worked weekends. So I would have to use holidays to take off weekends. This is the first weekend I've had off in 4 years. Like scheduled weekend I've had off in 4 years. And I didn't do anything and it was great.
You love to see it.
You got sex hair going on right now? It's a good day for you.
Yeah, it is a great day for me. Caitlin made some like squash spaghetti thing.
Spaghetti squash. She made spaghetti squash.
She squashed the spaghetti?
Yeah, she stepped on the spaghetti.
Wait, you know what's better than spaghetti squash though is zucchini squash. Get her to do like you just take the spirals.
Well, yeah, she has a zoodler, like one of those things.
That shit's so good. Like,
it's literally called a zoodler, which I didn't know. It's like that sounds like a drug.
The consistency is just slightly better, I feel like, with zucchini noodles than spaghetti squash, and I don't know why. Like, it's
Zoodler sounds like a villain in those like McDonald's toy movies.
The Zoodler. And he's just
the Zoodler.
He's just a lanky boy.
He's like, a lanky boy.
Yeah.
The Zoodler's coming to steal all your vegetables. Not the Zoodler.
He's just Zoodler.
The Zoodler's coming to break your kneecaps because he works for the Hamburglar and you owe him money.
I was going to say, because he's Tanya Harding. He's there to break your kneecap.
Where the fuck is my money? I'm the Zoodler.
But the Riddler, he doesn't leave riddles. He just leaves zucchini.
The Zoodler was here.
The Zoodler again. The Zoodler strikes again.
God. Jake, how you doing? You threw up, right?
Yeah.
Also.
Team Bomb. What's up, fam?
Yeah,
Bomb
the
fam.
parallels between Caitlin and I continue.
Jake and I are the same person.
We are. Admittedly, it was by my own fault. What was it on Saturday? No, Friday? Friday, yeah. I went. So I've gotten super into cycling lately, or back into it. And on Friday, I decided to push myself a little bit farther than I've gone before, which was a mistake because all I had that day was like 2 cups of coffee and a donut. So it all
Love
came
the
back,
diet. Very much the same. Sorry.
and it all came back for vengeance
Oh.
at the end. Like I got home and I was like, I immediately like got in the bath. I was like, I need to lower my body temperature, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. And I stood up out of the bath, and immediately I was like, no, I'm gonna throw up. And it's like,
How?
Just that coffee throw up be hitting different though. Just like all,
it
just
burnt
all.
all.
It's just acid.
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah. So otherwise, that was good. Yeah, I'm just chilling. This is watch one of my favorite movies of all time for this podcast, so that got me up. And now I'm starting Gossip Girl with Mallory. So
Hey.
Okay.
we're living out here.
So I low-key want to write my thesis on Gossip Girl, but on Chuck Bass. And like
The rapist? That's
yes,
all I know about him.
on he's a fucking rapist, but they try to convince you by the end of the show that he's a romantic hero, that you should be happy Blair, like, surprise, he gets with Blair. This is not, the show has been on for forever. But like
What?
but like you how he the first episode he literally rapes a girl and
Yeah,
they're like
What?
he's a romantic hero.
Yeah.
And people were
tried to
cool with
go
this?
Blake
Yes.
Lively in a kitchen.
Every woman was
Screams
fine
bloody
with this
murder now.
somehow.
I mean, by the time you get to season 6, like you barely even remember that he's a rapist.
But that's, I guess, what I'm
Like, it
saying
slips
is
your
that I
mind.
want to write an essay about the forgetfulness of America's memory when it comes to men and sexual assault charges. Because
Honestly, it's not bad.
I mean,
Yeah.
when he wasn't charged with anything, but as soon as the new Ansel Elgort movie comes out, people about to forget.
he even low-key was all like, I could have maybe done it, but I don't remember quite.
I don't want to go down. I don't necessarily want to go down this. Allegedly.
Well, I mean, in his statement, he was like, I did it. I was indeed there. And I was
What
like,
is?
okay,
He's gonna be
Ansel.
in the Steven Spielberg
West Side
West
Story.
Side
West Side
Story.
Story. That's what I was trying to say. It's like once West Side Story comes out, people are gonna be like,
Theater
anybody
kids
can
ain't-
sing.
I don't know if theater kids are gonna be about it. I don't know.
They won't.
That's my
People are gonna
niche.
hate that. All the theater bros are gonna despise that movie.
They're gonna be like, wow, not my West Side Story. You know.
Not my West Side Story. Steven Spielberg doing West Side Story.
I don't know why
It's a
he's
thing
doing
I never thought I would say, but
I
whatever.
don't really want.
Because he wants to.
I don't want.
Who
it,
asked
though.
for that?
No
No
one
one.
did.
He was like, hey, you know what we need?
I understand that the original Natalie Wood, like it's literally not appropriate. Like she is a white woman playing a Latina.
Brownface.
Yeah, it's not okay. But we didn't really need like a new update. Like we can like, I don't know. Like
We already had Teen Beast movie. We're good.
yeah, no, that is West Side Story, but updated. And it was well done.
Thinking of things of shows that people have just, the collective conscious have just forgot about. I've seen a lot of people rewatching Friday Night Lights, the show, because I think it's on Hulu now.
It is.
It came back, and in like season 2 of that movie, like Landry and another woman, I forget her name. I'm sorry, I haven't watched the show in a long time. Just kill a guy,
Yeah.
and people forgot.
Yeah.
There's 5 seasons of that show, and it's never brought up again.
No, I literally think it's so interesting how soap operas and like dramas actually mirror, I think, what happens in real life, where we're all suddenly willing to forget, like, for instance, that OJ is a murderer. Like, we just
we ain't forget.
Oh no, we never forget
He's
that.
casually allowed to just walk around.
Oh yeah, I mean he is just like tweeting. Like it's just like,
I mean-
you shouldn't be on
And we're all
Twitter, dude.
somehow okay with it. Like, we're all like, oh, that's kind of funny. It's like, that's
No,
not funny.
no,
You
we are
fucking murdered
definitely
this man.
not.
Maybe you're not, but I saw, like, I'm on True Crime Reddit all the time, and so many people are trying to exonerate OJ, and I'm like, we all know he did it. Please stop. Like,
Mm.
Anyway, the Prestige.
yeah, let's circle back to a crime that did happen. Kind of.
Speaking of murders,
Many,
okay,
many.
so we are doing the
over.
we kind of just last second we're like, you want to just do the Prestige after doing American Psycho, because this is one of Christian Bale's better films outside of the Dark Knight series and some of his more recent work. But the Prestige, it kind of, people love it now more, but it kind of is in sort of the back, to me, I feel like is in sort of the back half. Like when you think of Christopher Nolan films, the first thing you don't think of The Prestige first, but it's one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, he also did this. So it's kind of interesting for me to go back and look at and sort of see the vision with Christopher Nolan. And that's something I feel like we will talk about here in a second. The Prestige, 2006, rated PG-13. It is 2 hours and 10 minutes long. Some of that could have been cut out, but whatever. It's
I think it moves fast.
it does. It moves fine. Like nothing's wasted, but I feel like
Yeah.
a couple of things could be taken out. But
Michael Caine could say less.
Michael Caine could be less exposition Caine. It has an 8.5. People love this movie. Like audience members love this movie. They didn't love it enough to see it when it came out, but once it got on DVD, they loved it. It has an 8.5 user score on IMDb, 1 million ratings, 1,146,000 ratings on IMDb. After a tragic accident, 2 stage magicians engage in a battle to create the ultimate illusion while sacrificing everything they have to outwit each other. Directed by Christopher Nolan, written by him and his brother, Jonathan Nolan and Christopher Nolan. Stars Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson, Michael Caine, Piper Perabo, Rebecca Hall, and David Bowie as Nikola Tesla. Incredible. And Andy
Piper
Serkis.
Parabo.
Did I say Perabo?
Well, I didn't know if you said. I thought you
Yeah.
didn't say her. She slipped my mind. She's just
Coyote
from
Ugly.
Coyote Ugly. Yeah.
Incredible. This was nominated for 2 Oscars.
Congrats.
It was nominated for Best Achievement in Cinematography by Wally Pfister. I don't even know her. Best Achievement. There you go. Best Achievement in Art Direction by Nathan Crowley and Julia Acapanitti. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but it was nominated for those 2 Oscars, and rightfully so. It was. It's rated as the number 47. I don't know if I agree with this, but it's rated as the number 47 movie of all time on IMDb user rating.
Strong.
It cost $40 million to make, which if you're talking about Christopher Nolan now, that's on the cheap side. Anyone want
He's
to
still
take
proving himself.
Yeah. Anyone want to take a stab after Batman Begins? He's still proving himself.
Yeah.
Anyone want to take a stab at how much money this made worldwide?
How much did it cost?
40 million.
14, 4D.
4D, 40.
Ooh, I'm gonna go double. It made 80.
Anybody want to do the Price is Right game, or do we just want to say that
81.
I'm gonna do 150.
150?
Good guess.
200?
It made
$200.
$200 hairs. It made 109 million. So it actually, I mean, it did fine
made it
worldwide, but not at what you would expect from how well people love this movie, because it, pretty well received by critics, 76% on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics' consensus is full of twists and turns. The Prestige is a dazzling period piece. It never stops challenging the audience, and they loved it because the audience has rated this a 92% overall on Rotten Tomatoes. So real quick, we'll give our ratings and reviews. Dex, you say you own this movie.
Yeah.
You watch it all the time. Go ahead.
All the
You
fucking
still have
time.
DVDs.
Of course I do. It's so fucking cool to look at. on
Y'all-
the
Man,
DVDs.
when I had to pay $3.99 for this, I was like, I wish I had this DVD.
Before we give our ratings, Mallory and I went and visited her grandma today, and on our way up, we passed a video rental store with like people going in. People
What?
are still renting DVDs in the year of our Lord 2020.
Shout out to those people keeping it real.
Very,
Oh, it was amazing.
Like not a red box or anything, like a DVD
Yeah, like-
rental store.
Just outside of McKinney. Yeah, it's like
what?
family video.
What's open still?
It was
It's
like
usually
a family video, I
the-
think is what it was.
I was gonna say it's usually the triple X DVD places that you see on the side of the highway in the middle of nowhere. Like, who's buying porn
Dude,
in Marfa?
When I was like 18, I went into one of those thinking I was so cool, and it was
No, you
just
didn't.
me. Yeah, I did, and
I'm
it
not
was
surprised.
It was my friend, me and my friend Nick, and we went in by ourselves. We were both 18, and it was just us and this very hairy fat man.
Of course it
who
was.
were just like looking, and we're both just like, oh, like, are we gonna buy a dildo? What are we gonna do? And then we made out in a Chick-fil-A parking lot. Continue, Dex.
Wonderful.
I can't follow that up, actually.
Yeah, you can.
Actually,
Excuse
yeah.
me, sir. Do you have any recommendations for us, actual adults? We would like to rent one porno, please.
We really like girl on girl.
Jesus. All right, Dex. Your rating and review, sir.
It's an A. I just fucking love this movie. I watch it all the time. Like you said, I wish I could go back and watch it again for the first time because, like, knowing what's coming, it's like I keep seeing little stuff like as it pops up, like foreshadowing and shit. But like that initial time that you watch it and you get to the end and figure everything out, you're like, holy fucking shit. It's just amazing. I love it so much. All the performances are great. Story is great. Like, it's just great. It's an A. It's probably my favorite movie we've ever reviewed on the podcast. So I'm ready to fight y'all about it.
Bro, we reviewed Avatar. What are you talking about?
The okayest movie of all time.
Okay.
The most forgetful
we
$1
have
billion
done
of my life.
We have done Twilight, sir.
Twilight is
Fire.
I didn't say it was the best movie we've ever done, but it's my favorite.
Fair point.
You're like, Twilight is the best movie we've ever
Objectively.
done.
Objectively.
I know what you are. Say
Caitlin,
it.
and the out loud vampire.
I'm just gonna say it in my head because you can't read my mind specifically.
Caitlin, go ahead, and then Jake.
I mean, I like this movie. Like, okay, so the first time I watched it, it's kind of hard because I watched it when I was like 15 or something like that, like kind of close to when it came out. And I must have been younger than that, but I'm not going to backtrack to figure out how old I was. Because it was 2007. I would have been like fairly young.
You're like 11 when this came out.
Yeah, I was like 11, and I watched it like with my parents when it first came out. And
I was 16, so whatever our age difference is.
I might have been like 10. I don't know. But like, I thought it was just fucking amazing when I was like 10. I was like, this is cinema. Like, this is art. And it like led me to watch like Memento and like kind of become like which also like why when you're like 11 watch Memento, but like I did.
Oh yikes.
Big yike.
Explains a lot about you, actually.
No, it makes. I mean, I watched Tarantino films when I was 12 years old. Like,
Also big yikes.
I was like obsessed with like Pulp Fiction when I was like 12. But
Now you have a foot
shout out, Paul. Like, way to go.
Literally, my
Come
dad.
on the pod. For the love of God.
My dad's favorite movies are literally like just like gross out, like stabby, and also a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum and West Side Story. Literally, my dad's first musical he ever showed me was West Side Story.
Your dad's like, I love Kill Bill, but also Oklahoma slaps.
No, like for real. But to the point, I really liked it when I was younger, and I thought it was super, super cool. And I watched it again, like somewhere in my teens, and I thought it was super, super cool. Watching it this time, I still like it, and I like what it's doing, but I see so many more narrative plot holes, and I see a lot of things that are not explained, like, ever. And it irritated me a little bit, like where the movie, I think, thinks it's smarter than it is sometimes. And I think that kind of irritated me. And I think that's something I see with Nolan films a lot now that I'm older, and like watching them kind of as an adult, is I think a lot of his movies think they're smarter than they are. And I don't know.
No, I was going to say, there's a thing that I was thinking about, and it kind of falls in the Spielberg thing, and I can get into more of this when I talk about it. I don't want to step on your toes, but he falls in the Spielberg thing where he makes movies for everyone.
Yes.
But he tries also to make them like he wants you to think a little bit, I feel like. And sometimes that's to his detriment, because it's like sometimes he just explains a little bit too much or whatever, or like he tries to be purposely ambiguous.
I think he also tries to be a little bit like, I don't know. So I was thinking about something while I was watching it, and it's like, I don't mean to be so much that person that's like trying to do critical analysis of a film, because that's not what we're here for. But like
Oh,
watching
really?
it, but watching it, I was like, this film is so deeply sexist, and the ways it tries to not be sexist and have commentary on women is actually problematic in itself. For instance, the narrative of like comparing women very specifically to birds and birds in cages. There's a lot of like weird narrative there. Especially when Sarah kills herself, like you see all the birds, like, anyway, I can go into like detail
That
on
was
that.
so unnecessary. That part was just so not needed.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, is it's clear that they're trying to do a metaphor, but I'm like not on board for that metaphor at all. I find it honestly pretty misogynistic. I don't think they handle Olivia or Sarah well at all. And I wonder if that's part of the point, but I don't think that's even narratively done well. I still think it's a good movie though. Like I'd give it like an A-. I would have given it an A before I rewatched it. It's just rewatching it, I think I see more issues.
The parts of this movie make it like altogether make it good, but then when you start breaking it down like we have part by part, where you're
when
just
you
like,
start nitpicking, you're like, I see. It's almost, it literally does work. Someone was talking about how this movie is a magic trick in itself. Like in the 3-act structure, it follows the Prestige, the Trick, and the Turn. And I think what's really interesting about watching it and looking for details, you see almost too much what the movie's doing. And I think it ruins the magic, literally. So, I don't know. A-.
Jake, go ahead. You said this is one of your favorite movies.
This is one of my favorite movies of all time. This is a movie that it has an extreme rewatchability for me. Again, if it's on TV, I will stop and watch it. Doesn't matter what scene it's on. I will finish it all the way through. I think it's that good. I agree with Dex. This is a movie that every time I go back and watch it, there's a little detail that I haven't seen before that like keeps me coming back. There's just like little hidden notes and homages to history and the actual background of magic. Like all the tricks that we do see are actual real magic tricks that were performed during this era and were carried through. So like there's little hints and tricks and stuff that always keep you coming back for more. But at the same time, I also agree with Caitlin, is that there's a lot that are happening in the background that make it very problematic in certain points. It's a movie about the process of telling a story, and it's also not a movie about magic, despite the fact that it's being about magic. Like, no magic ever happens in this whole film. You're shown all the tricks and explained in excruciating detail how it's all done. Like, this might be my age thing, but at one point in time on TV, there was a mass magician who would show you all the like best tricks and like how he did it. Like, 12-part series on Fox. I mean, it's that. Like, it's just take the curtain away and show you what's happening in the background, except for the fucking clone machine. Like, suddenly there is magic. So the whole time, the movie does make you feel smart, because it's like, oh yeah, no, you explained the trick to me. Now I see the trick. I know everything that's happening. And then bam, we get fucking David Bowie as Nikola Tesla, and science comes in, and we can clone people. So suddenly magic does happen. But overall, like, this is an A for me. It's a movie that I absolutely love. It's my first introduction into the Nolan verse, as I think it is for a lot of people. I think it's a much more palatable Nolan film. Well, Dark Knight trilogy probably would be a better introduction at this point, but this was mine, and I've been obsessed with Nolan films ever since.
You can argue that this is the film that people figured out who Christopher Nolan was.
I think that's probably true.
I mean, people will always be like, well, Insomnia came out in like the early, but it's like, this came after The Dark Knight. People were like, who made that movie? The guy that made this. And then they were just kind of like, oh, okay, this is a Christopher Nolan film. It wasn't a Christian Bale. It wasn't it wasn't that.
Originally, it was supposed to be Sam Mendes that was going to direct this. Like, basically the ink was
They were going to take their script.
I forgot who originally wrote it.
It's apparently
the brothers,
Nolan and
but
I know. Are you saying that they were going to write the book, because it's originally a book? So was it that someone else was going to adapt the book?
Christopher Priest novel.
Yeah, it was
'Cause-
originally supposed to go to Mindy's because he just came off American Beauty. And
Oh,
so he
okay,
was
that
hot
would have been
sh-
interesting.
He was
I
hot
don't
shit
think-
at that point in time, but then I think Christopher Priest or whoever wrote the book got a copy of. It was either like a unedited copy of Memento or something like that, and was immediately like, "No, Nolan's gonna get it better."
That's interesting to me. I also think it's interesting because I could see why, because I read a few excerpts from the book. I didn't read it. I feel no reason to read that book. But like apparently
You
it's told
want
all
Matthew
through
to explain to you?
no. And it's apparently
it's not dark enough for her.
it's also it's an epistemological book, which means it's told all through diaries and letters, and I don't want to. But I think that's actually kind of interesting, and I could see why someone would think Nolan would do that better, especially with something like Memento as being his previous work, like something that's a little bit more about reading into someone's psyche, because that's I think what's happening when you're just reading diary entries. It's entirely eternal monologue. I don't know.
They do try to tell that story a little bit through, and it jumps a little bit weird timelines, and that's kind of a problem I had with it. But Jake, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's my last little tidbit. This movie has 146 jump cuts. That's basically a jump cut a minute.
Fuck. Why?
Because it's the fucking Nolan brothers.
I know.
And the
and
Nolan
it works.
brothers. I mean, if you look at every Nolan film, like even Batman, like the Nolan brothers are obsessed with the concept of time and will make any sort of movie that questions the very nature of time, this not excluded. So just 146 jump cuts. There you go.
It works.
They do stuff with camera. I mean, he does stuff with camera movement. You can see this mostly, and I've noticed this because I had to do a film analysis of something in school. They asked me to look at like a scene that we loved and look how many cuts were in it, and it's the interrogation scene between Batman and the Joker in The Dark Knight.
Oh, that's a good scene.
And he purposely changes the axis on which the camera is. Like he starts classically. I mean, Jake will know this. Classically, you shoot over the same shoulder that you're shooting.
Yeah,
like interview. It's like yeah. You just keep that same line. He does, and he just spins around. Like he just doesn't care. Like he'll cut to the other side of the interview, and so it's just sort of that's a kind of interesting thing that. He doesn't really care about film conventions, although he does seem like a historian of film and stuff like that, like a film auteur. And he does really care. I would give this movie so we can start getting into the notes and stuff. I would give this movie an A-, like Caitlin. I feel like when I first saw it, it was definitely after The Dark Knight, and it was before I saw Memento. I had just like a theater kid showed me this. An older theater.
That seems right.
Of course.
I was like a sophomore. They were like a senior. They're like, "Have you seen The Prestige?" And
I feel like this movie was always recommended in tandem somehow with Moulin Rouge, and I don't quite know why, but that's definitely
same time. Is like something they saw when they were like 12, and they're like, "You got to see this."
They're like, "This is
art, high art
with a capital A. It's art."
But like I was saying, this was my first introduction to remembering who Christopher Nolan was. And after that, I mean, obviously The Dark Knight and stuff came out, but like his films sort of became what they are today at an event. He's known as like an event filmmaker. You have to go see his movies. And I wish I could have seen this in the theaters because I feel like it would have played a lot differently when I was younger. But I remember this is one of the first twist endings. This and like unusual suspects. Kevin Spacey in The Unusual Suspects. This is one of the first twist endings where I can vividly remember being shocked by. And looking back on it now, it's not that big of a twist. And I don't know what is the bigger twist, the fact of Hugh Jackman and his prestige trick or the Christian Bale. Spoiler alert for later on if you haven't seen this movie. It's been out for a decade.
14-year-old movie.
Spoiler alert for Christian Bale's twin. So, like, I don't know if that plays as good as it did when I was younger. I've been just irony poisoned for my entire life, so nothing is sacred anymore. But like,
I feel like the Christian Bale twist is bigger than the Hugh
Really?
Jackman
Because that's the
twist.
one that I felt was so transparent. Because you look at Fallon immediately and you're like, that's just
yeah.
fucking Christian Bale in a
Looking
wig.
back on when you rewatch it, you're just like, he's wearing a beard.
Yeah. Like, I'm not
Go
shook.
ahead, Jake. You
Like,
got your hand up.
Is this teacher?
Please.
Take me. No, can I drop my theory now about that, or shall
Yeah.
we
Do
wait
it.
some notes?
just
Okay.
Alright.
hit it now.
So if you look at it contextually, it makes no goddamn sense for the diary to lead Christian Bale to see Tesla because the diary is just fake and a plant. So
So is
I
Hugh
have
Jackman to see Tesla?
yeah,
Yes. You said
Yeah.
Christian Bale.
sorry. So my theory is that Christian Bale cloned himself because otherwise else the story makes no sense for nobody to ever know he wasn't a twin. Like it would make no goddamn sense in this world that he's a twin and nobody ever knew about it.
You're right.
But if he knew about Tesla and for some reason sent Hugh Jackman there, he clearly knows that Tesla has something going on that would duplicate people. And when we
That
meet
makes
Tesla,
a lot more
he's
sense.
already doing that.
Though I have one little like wrench I want to throw in there, which is
Sure.
it's clear when Jackman sees his clone, they both think that they are the true person.
Yeah.
We
Well,
don't
maybe.
see that same conflict with Borden and Fallon. In fact, they seem to have entirely separate personalities because they have totally different like love interests. They have totally different like
Sure,
maybe
but
maybe they're just a higher form of being.
maybe
Christian Bale. Just
But yeah,
better
I
human
think
being.
like the commitment to like the goldfish trick that they talk about earlier, like they seem to have that same level of commitment like for their entire life or whatever. So like
Yeah.
I think they're just actual twins.
I also
Personally.
think they're just actually twins, especially because Tesla seems frustrated and doesn't seem to know that his trick
Is
works.
working.
Yeah, because he doesn't even know where, like, he didn't know the cat. He thought nothing happened to the fucking cat. Like, he was
Yeah.
like, it's just standing there.
But I did write down like it's some incredibly bad luck throughout this movie. Like, how did you actually send this man to the one person on Earth who can help him actually do this?
Right.
I feel
That's
bad.
some incredibly bad luck.
Every time I watch this movie, I just feel bad for Christian Bale. It's like I feel bad for Borden because I'm like, dude, that fucking sucks. Like,
Nah, everybody. I think this plays better when you realize everybody in this is a dickhead.
they are. They all
Everyone
suck.
sucks.
Except I think final Borden / Fallon is, I don't know who it is because they're the same person. They
Right.
say so. It's like I don't fucking know.
Like a clone.
Right, that's the point.
Okay.
I'm making
like,
more sense.
I kind of like him. He grew on me. I was like, you're the good one. I can tell.
The only good person in this is Michael Caine.
That might be.
And
I
even
also,
the-
I don't know.
even-
Sarah seems okay. Not Sarah. First wife that drowns.
Oh, well, yeah, she seemed
Doesn't matter
okay.
what her name is.
Julia seems okay.
To finish
I just
my
wanted
review,
Hugh Jackman to have one W this entire movie. Like that's
I
all I
want-
wanted.
I want nothing for Hugh Jackman. I don't.
He took
care
so
about
many
him.
L's.
He took those L's.
I don't
He ate
care
those
about Hugh
L's,
Jackman
dude.
because he ruined Les Mis and he deserves to die.
He ruined Les Mis.
He
Holy
actually is maybe one
God.
of the worst Valjeans I've ever seen in my
He
life.
ruined Les Mis, and not
Yes, him with Russell Crowe.
I was
They
gonna
did
say,
it
and
in
not
tandem.
Russell Crowe.
They did it together. Like it's
My
the
name is
only
Russell
time
Crowe,
I'll
and
say,
I am singing.
I have
Stream our
caution
Les
in my
Mis
mouth.
episode.
Yeah, stream our Les Mis episode. You can go back a few episodes, find that. To finish my review, sorry.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. We needed to say that because that theory is going to come in later when we get towards the end of these notes and stuff.
Mhm.
My best thing that I can say about this movie is that I love how it looks. I do really like Jackman and Bale's performance. I think this is kind of a lesser Bale performance, if we're being honest. I think it's more of an upper Jackman performance, if we're being honest. But the having them play multiple characters is kind of funny. But the biggest thing that I can say from this movie is that I just see the vision here with
Mhm.
Christian Nolan, with Christopher Nolan, and
Christian
Nolan,
Nolan, they are
Chris-
the same man.
Christian Noel Jackman. You can see the vision with him, and you can see how he kind of has worked out this whole time thing in his later films, including Dunkirk, which I thought was brilliant. and saw in theater. I going back on that movie,
I would like
Dunkirk.
to narrate that Jake just shook his hand like
Yeah.
iffy.
Yeah, like, meh, but and Inception and things of that sort. I think, and Interstellar as well. I think those films got better because he was able to work things out on this film for sure. And I think he became definitely a better director. And I will also say the world building by Christopher Nolan in all of his films is incredible. He doesn't leave one thing unturned as far as sets, as far as costumes, as far as like this. And also, surprisingly, besides Insomnia and Memento, this is surprisingly one of his more self-contained films. Even though they go all the way to Colorado and stuff, it's just kind of like his, as far as when things start going, like he took this leap from doing these sort of self-contained one set films, and of course they go to Colorado and stuff, but they're mostly just in London. To go from that to, all right, we're going to space, like the kind of leap for Christopher Nolan is really interesting for me, and I love how it's sort of set up his career. It's not his best film. I don't pretend like it is, but is it entertaining? Does he make films that people can watch, and are they easy to watch? And are you still surprised at the end of it? Yes, absolutely. Do you have to take some leaps with this film? Absolutely.
You have to take some very big leaps.
You have to take some very big leaps. But in the end, I think it works out. This is an A-, man. This movie's great. I cannot believe it took me this long to rewatch this movie. But 35 minutes in, let's get into some notes.
Before we move on,
go ahead.
Is this the highest overall grade we've ever given a movie?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
No, Booksmart, we gave straight A's all through.
Did we?
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't there for that.
4 A's.
Happier days.
I did. Oh yeah, y'all had someone on because I was like, I didn't give it anything.
So we can get into these notes. If y'all have any notes, please interject, because all of the podcast is always just me reading the notes that I have. Go ahead.
Can I say just the one note that is very important to me?
Yeah,
because this bothers me, and I can't, and I can explain it away, but it's fucking stupid. And it's the fact that they explain the whole thing with Julia in the tank, and they explain how the entire trick works. So it's she reaches her hand in. She undoes the knot, she reaches her hand in, and she opens the trick lock, right?
Right.
Why do they have to axe her the fuck out when she's dying? Why don't they just open the trick lock and then she can push it open? And I understand that the way you can explain it away is to say that they're just so committed to the trick that they're willing to let her die and axe her out. But the problem with that is they already ruin the trick the minute she's dead, because he shouts out Julia, 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 making it very clear that he's a plant. They ruin the trick immediately.
I thought about that. I was like, why didn't no one why didn't Michael Caine just undo the lock?
I don't understand.
My only counter is that Michael Caine, every time they do that trick, his immediately reaction is to look and hold on to the axe. So maybe their whole plan was always that it's just faster to axe them out.
But it's not. But,
because it's not. No, it absolutely isn't. But yeah.
Just give her air either way. Do it so she can fucking breathe while you axe her out. I don't know.
You know what the real reason is she had to die.
Can they reach that box?
I don't.
Can they reach the top of that lock from the floor?
Yes, because he shows them the trick this.
Yeah.
He shows the prosecutor or whatever.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Yeah. So we know that she can do it because that's how she gets out.
I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about from the outside.
Oh, they could easily do it because
he does. Yeah, he does it.
Yeah, he literally does it. No, so that's it. I'm sorry. It's just the one thing that really fucking bugged me because I was like, she by no means had to die. This was.
See, but my problem with that scene is why give the old man the axe instead of the very strong other people who are
her
on
death
stage.
is entire.
Also,
honestly,
not one person knows CPR. Not one. They didn't even
Borden
try.
is not to blame for her death. It's literally all of them for not just fucking opening the trick lock. I don't.
Nah, it's his fault. You have to tie that knot.
No, it's not. He also doesn't even remember if he did.
You don't need that lock.
He definitely tied that knot.
He definitely tied the knot, but the fact of the matter is, if someone had undone the trick lock, she would have lived.
I hate that part of
don't tie the stupid knot. They told
I
you
agree.
not
Don't
to
tie the knot, but also don't bring a fucking axe. Just open the trick lock.
Wouldn't need axe. Didn't tie the wrong knot.
The only reason it exists is so that way his death at the very end can parallel his wife's death,
That's
because
literally it.
everybo's
That's
deaths parallels their wife's death.
Well, the thing is I didn't even notice that. Thank
Yeah,
you,
that
Jake.
is
Thank you
true.
for the little.
True.
The thing, I mean, it does have to progress the story. That's literally the only thing is, and Christopher Nolan's definitely like, I hope they don't notice this. Like,
Anyway,
Right.
that's
Guess
my
what?
No, he's
only,
like, cause fuck you. That's why.
yeah.
that's my only note until we get to birds, and then I have a lot of notes on bird symbolism because I'm angry.
Oh, great.
We got bird note, guys.
There's a lot of notes on the birds because they overemphasize these fucking birds.
Hashtag birds aren't real.
They aren't real.
Right.
Never existed.
That's right. Sponsor the pod.
Sponsor the pod, bird scooters.
That's it. That's it.
The all birds shoes sponsor the pod.
Drones.
Yeah, I just that whole scene, and we can kind of skip by, but it's just the thing that irritated me more about that is the plot line of, oh, I don't know what knot I tied.
You
Shut up. Shut up.
nodded at each other.
You're like, wink, wink. You want to do it? You want to do the
Which
thing?
is like, arguably, she's as much to blame. She was like, I can totally get out of this knot. I promise. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, you couldn't.
We've done this.
Watching it this time, I took it being he was the other twin who didn't tie the knot and didn't actually know.
Oh, that's possible.
Theory. That's an interesting theory.
That's possible.
So I just started out my notes by going by like, Christopher Nolan's just obsessed with weird things, man.
Same.
He's just like obsessed with like, what if magicians, but they hated each other? And you're just like, what would that be like? And you're just like, okay, dude, we'll go on this ride with you.
Apparently, this is based off of a lot of real magicians' feuds at the time.
Makes sense.
there's a
Like
couple-
no magician gets along with another magician except for like Penn and Teller.
And apparently this like market economy of selling tricks was like a real thing where like they would straight up like sell each other fucking tricks.
And I think it still is a thing to this day.
It might be. I don't run in magician circles. I don't hate myself, Dex.
Yes, you do.
There's
Yeah,
like
you're right,
there's
Andy.
like two types of magic. It's like guy that breaks it out at a party that you really don't, or just billionaires.
Chris Angel.
Yeah. Mind freak.
But don't lie to yourself.
You're clearly
Everybody-
wearing a wire, Chris.
Everybody
Mind
wants
freak.
to be that guy at the party that's like, hey, by the way, flowers. Like, you know you're lame as shit, but you still want to do that.
I do
Is
like it.
this your card? No. Shit.
Fuck.
When someone can do a damn good card trick, though. Fuck.
But you always have to carry around a pack of cards.
Yeah.
Like you
And
always
then-
have to have that. Got my car keys, got my wallet, got my phone.
I keep
Got
that
my
motherfucking
ace of
tag on.
spades.
You know I keep that thing on me. Bam! Pick a card.
No,
What?
all I
Wait,
wanna
and then
do-
like back in the day, they'd carry a little foldable cage and a bird with them to show at parties.
Yeah.
Smash,
Oh, God.
smash!
Bird's gone. What now?
You
So
killed
all I want to do is, I mean, they're completely different, but all I want to do is Magic for Humans, Justin Willman, whatever his name is, on Netflix.
I don't know if I've seen that.
I
Look
have
up
not
Magic
seen
what that
for
is, I'm
Humans on
sorry.
Netflix. It's a street magician. His name is Justin Willman. He does street magic, but he's also a comedian, so it's very funny. There's like 3 seasons.
I didn't
I'm
know
intrigued.
magic people could be funny. I thought they just.
They're all
Good.
nerds.
Penn
I
and
thought
Teller.
they weren't good at pickup artistry and thus subjected themselves to magic.
Thought it's David Blaine just freaking out pro athletes in their homes.
Stealing watches and shit.
Speaking of, have you ever seen the David Blaine thing where he goes to Harrison Ford's house and Harrison Ford's just high out of his mind, and he's just like, get out of my house. He tricks him with he takes like a dollar bill out of his mouth or something like that, and Harrison Ford's like looking at him like he's an actual witch. Like he's just like, I want you to leave now.
Harrison Ford starts stoning him to death. Like, do not spare
Hitting him with
wit.
the
Harrison Ford-
bullwhip.
Harrison Ford looks at his watch. He's like, I got to crash a plane in 30 minutes. Finish this shit up.
I haven't crashed on a golf course in a long time, fella. We're
This golden
overdue.
earring doesn't pay for itself.
This is impeding my weekend crash.
God damn. The Harrison Ford slander is unexpected.
My mom loves Harrison Ford.
I
so
love Harrison
much.
Ford, but he
love him
crashes.
so
He shouldn't
much.
be flying.
I think
That is
all
just
white
a
people are
fact.
required to love Harrison Ford.
I also really love
Yes.
Harrison Ford.
I mean, Harrison Ford, big time daddy, but like he.
Oh, he's
I
zaddy
really
by this
wanted,
point.
you know, in Indiana Jones, the girl that writes like "I love you" on her eyelids.
Oh yeah.
I went as her for one Halloween sometime in my like high school years. I don't remember when.
I'm sure
'Cause I
people
was, like,
really got that '80s reference.
No one
Yeah.
understood it, but I thought I was really fucking cool.
I
I
love
have no fucking
cinema.
idea what y'all are talking about because Harrison Ford is the most white famous person of all time. Like only white people know Harrison Ford references.
I think people have.
Untrue.
I think unwhite people have seen Indiana
Unwhite.
Jones.
Not nearly as many as you would imagine. But anyway, back to the Prestige.
No, let's talk about Indiana Jones.
So let's see.
I wrote down like in the beginning. I wonder what the fuck I thought all these hats were like when I first watched this movie. Because
Oh, yeah.
like now I recognize that it's like foreshadowing the rest of the plot, but I'm like, I don't remember what the fuck I thought was happening when
Top
all those hats
hats.
got shown the first time.
Oh
A
my-
whole lot of them.
A lot
in a
of
field.
Monopoly
Is this,
being played.
Is this a class commentary?
The Monopoly man is around here somewhere. Many of them. The monocles are missing. We have to solve this. I need Jackman and Nolan to team up again.
I don't.
I'm with it.
You gotta calm down.
You
with
also have the
Jackman
Hugh
hate.
Jackman slander, and I do not understand you because he is objectively really good looking.
No, he's not.
And in fun movies.
And his movies all suck.
All of them. Every single
Every
Hugh Jackman
single
movie
one.
sucks.
You literally just gave one an A-.
I think I gave it this way because of Nolan and Bale, not because
But
of
like-
Jackman.
Your Hugh Jackman hate is because
It's
of Les
unwarranted.
Mis,
It's unfounded.
An objectively terrible film that you're somehow laying all blame on Australian.
Name
Gorgeous
another
man.
film besides The Prestige that I should like that Hugh Jackman
Logan.
is in.
Logan.
I don't like it. It's a boring film.
Oh my god! Jesus Christ!
Welcome to the One Take Podcast, hosted by Royden, Jake, and Dex, and no one else.
I just
I
don't
don't
understand
even
how you don't think
recall
that he's handsome, and that's my biggest complaint. Like,
He's
say what you
not.
want about his film.
But I've also
That is
said
just
that, like,
false. That is just
I've
false.
also said my ideal man is literally what's his face? The guy that plays fucking oh my god. What's his fucking name? Adam Driver. My ideal man is Adam Driver.
If Hugh Jackman isn't hot, then what? There's just no
Adam
hope for
Driver.
anyone.
Adam Driver's hot.
We're moving on from this because you're just objectively wrong. Sorry.
I'm sorry that I don't like the man that you're in love with.
He's
I don't
hot.
have to.
This
He's
is
hot.
somehow worse than Dex's Black people don't like Harrison Ford.
How is this worse?
Uh,
I'm not saying women don't love Hugh Jackman. I think many women do. I am not one of them.
I have receipts on the Harrison Ford thing, by the way. We'll get into that later off pod. But
let's see. Christian Bale is actually British in this.
Yeah.
Would you look at that? It's a thing that happened.
Welsh ass self.
That's
They did
pretty
it.
close to his real
Uh,
accent, too.
Hey, I just said, imagine living in a time without electricity. Big time, fuck that.
super duper fuck that, man. Living any time before like 1980 was way more trouble than it was worth. Like
I feel
Whack.
super
I was
whack.
literally like, wow, imagine a time where electricity could be considered magical. And I was like, I don't want to be there.
Like
I'm
Edison
good
was
with
a wizard. And you're just
my
like-
lamp. Like,
Could
Nikola
you imagine going to that like Tesla show and you're just seeing fucking lightning fly over your head?
They would have stoned you to death. They would have thrown you in a. They would have tied you to a
Historically,
cinder
they
block and
didn't,
thrown
though.
you in the river.
historically, they shockingly did not stone Tesla to death.
Shockingly,
Yeah, shockingly lived a long time. Hey, he lived a
I
very
didn't
long
mean
time.
that, but I'm gonna take credit for it.
That was like
pun so intended.
I just feel like, man, people are still pooping outdoors like they don't know what this is. You know what I mean? That seems like you're like burn it with fire. That's like what the let's see. Oh, I said Planet of the Apes guy, but just not in motion capture.
Andy Serkis.
Oh.
Andy Serkis. The lighting in this is awesome. I think Wally Pfister did a really incredible job. I mean, obviously he was nominated for an Academy Award, and he's done, he did most of Nolan's films up until Interstellar, I think, which also looks good in its own right. But like, I think the lighting in this is great. I do like the juxtaposition, I guess is the word that I'm looking for, or the back and forth between Jackman being the showman and Bale not, and how Bale starts to become that later on in the film. I think that's really good characterization right off the bat. It's very simple characterization, but it's really good. Like, I don't know if y'all have anything like to say about the characters in this.
Yeah, I think that's right. That Borden's like the actual natural magician. And like, because of his duality, I guess, like, is kind of the implication of like why, and the commitment, the sacrifice he deals with every single fucking day. But yeah, he's a showman. I agree. Though I also agree with the critic who wrote that if you remove their obsessions in the movie, there is neither of them have a personality.
Right.
And I think that is true. Yeah. I think neither of those
Yeah.
characters have any real characteristics except for what they're obsessed with.
And that's maybe sort of,
I think it's intentional.
Yeah, it could be a fault, but it also is probably just like men and their obsessions and wanting to just obsess until the very end, and then we die. Like, and that's
it's a movie about obsession. Like,
yeah,
exactly.
It is, but to a point that I think sometimes like you.
Well, it's like Jordan Belfort's obsessed with making money, but there's a personality
he still has a
there.
personality under it. Yeah,
and Quaaludes.
Yeah, I think it makes it a little bit more of an allegory than an actual like 3-dimensional character. Like, there's no real character study, which is fine. Mm-hmm. It kind of functions, I think, more as an allegory, which it works. I think that works, but
it works fine. Yeah. I mean, it is, but the most characteristics that they have is pretty much shown within the first couple of minutes, where they're just where like, as soon as Jackman steps up on stage as like the plant or the volunteer, he's just like, huh! Like, he doesn't, and he just like, look at me, and then and Bale's kind of like.
Also, I'd be curious how these scenes were filmed, because Jackman has this habit in pretty much every film he's in that he cannot keep a consistent accent, and his accent slips a fuck ton early in this movie, and then gets more consistent as it goes on. So I'd be interested.
I did write down, why make him American? They never, unless his British accent is just so terrible that they were just like, yeah, there's no point, because they base this entirely in London except for when he goes to Colorado. But it's just like, there's no characterization of him, whereas like, you're an American, like out of place. I don't know.
Make him go really far away. But if you make him Australian, like he actually is, that's also really fucking far away.
Doesn't take anything away from this movie. I don't know. Do y'all have anything on that? Like, why make him American?
Yeah, his accent just.
Nope, nothing. Yeah. Whatever. Fine with it. Let's see. I do love. Go ahead, Jake or Dex.
Custody of his kid is like a wild thing to be able to hold over somebody's head as a third party. Like,
yeah,
it's some really fucked up shit.
She will go to the work farm.
1860. She's gonna get the black lung if you don't give up your jokes or give up.
I mean, she's gonna get it anyway. But
your tricks.
Your jokes. Imagine a world where comedian jokes have the same economic currency.
Hey, that dick joke you've been working on, give it up or your child's going to prison.
It's because comedy's worthless and comedians are inherently of no value.
Well, they say that, and he's like, you know how much I hate comedians. Is when and I was just kind of like, ouch. I do love the line, and it should have been the tagline for this film, but the line, "Are you watching closely?" and how Bale delivers it is great every single time. Yep. It's a great line. And just kind of how that's a little characteristic for him, where it's just like, I'm better than you at this. And it is really, really intimidating every time that Bale's pretty intimidating in this, mostly because he's fat in this.
Fat for him.
Yeah, fat for him. He's Fat Bale in this. This is after he's Fat Man. He's after Batman in this. It's like after it's like
Bateman?
Bateman? Batman? table turns on it.
Oh.
A little callback to last week. But this is like after he stops taking steroids for Batman, and it's just like coming down off of it.
He's a little chub. I think he's the cutest here. So
Michael Caine is exposition man.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he is in most Nolan films.
Yeah, Michael Caine is in that Denzel Washington category where he's always just like the wise old man at everything that he does at this point.
But he's been that way for decades now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like
Same
he's more
for
like
Denzel.
Morgan. I feel like he's more
No.
like Morgan. I feel like he's more like Morgan Freeman, where it's like you're just always old wise man could play God. Like
Right. Let's see. Which one was the one in the apartment? Does it matter?
Do you mean like
When they switch places and he's trying to watch.
I don't know if it matters.
I don't know who's in love with who, so I guess it just doesn't matter.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah, because
we
they
don't
both.
know.
I guess they both play the Fallon guy too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess it just doesn't matter. But it is sort of interesting. Is they doing wife swap stuff? Like
Yeah.
what are they? What are we
Which
doing
is
here?
also- Are we to assume also that the one that's in love with Sarah is also actually the father of the child? Like that's what I've been assuming. Okay, cool.
I mean, we have
I
to
don't know that we know. There's really no way to know.
I feel like I would assume that, especially
Yeah.
because he seems more affectionate towards the child in all the scenes where we do know that there's a separation.
Well, the one that is at the very end is the father of the child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the
Like,
one that's
that's
in love
pretty-
with Sarah.
I would assume that. I would assume
Now.
that.
That's what I was assuming. I don't know. It's not
Um,
actually important. It's just I don't know.
No one knows CPR in this. Well, I know we talked about that for just 2
Yeah.
seconds. No one tries.
Yeah.
What do you expect him to know? Basic medical science?
Science is a magic at this point.
Yeah.
In history.
Michael Caine's he took 5 minutes for him to cough. Maybe we should try something else instead of waiting for him to expel this from his lungs by themselves. Maybe we should try
Nope.
something.
No,
CPR was not invented until 1960.
honestly,
Wow. It took that long for somebody to be maybe if we press on their chest, the water will come out.
to the sound. Well, did the song "Staying Alive"? Was
Yeah, the Bee Gees didn't
First
release
I was
Staying Alive.
afraid, I was petrified.
that you had to wait for that song to exist first.
Did you do? Are you supposed to do it to "I Will Survive"?
No, it's "Staying Alive."
Staying alive. That's the
Staying Alive.
Office bit.
Oh,
The Office bit with Michael Scott, where he starts off the song by going, "First I was afraid, I was petrified." They're like, "No, the Staying Alive bit." Well, why would I do that?
I will. Okay.
Apparently, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation was invented in 56, and then CPR was invented in 60.
The mouth to mouth.
No, they did not know.
The mouth to mouth. They were just
make
out
out
with
them
the dead body.
yeah.
That'll
Let's
work.
just try it and see.
Yeah, it was just pitched by some necrophile who was like, maybe
then-
it'll bring him back.
What if you
Just sort of
What if you
without-
put your mouth on their mouth? Do it.
Stick your tongue in just to see.
Just
break the rib cage? Just see what happens.
Dude, CPR is nuts because they can do it for so long, or if you get you will break somebody's chest.
Wait, yeah. Did someone find out the rhythm? Because they were like, I just wanna press our song into his chest one more time.
If I was given,
Stay alive.
that's so funny.
Now I'm imagining somebody doing CPR. So one more time.
One more time, I want to celebrate.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And our 6 fans are going to be very confused about why I opened this podcast episode with "Staying Alive."
Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in roots and ruined your black tie. It's not working.
I'm gonna hitch my horse to the old town.
Oh God.
La 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 la. Wait till I get
La,
my
la,
My
money.
money, right? No, the beginning of that song. Ding. Ding.
Run away from me, baby.
Oh God.
Dun.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Okay. Oh my God. That's
She
going
was a
online.
skater.
Hey, hey now, you're an all-star. Here's the game on. Go play. It's not working!
Did not expect to do this much on CPR.
Smash Mouth, we need another one! Lord.
Just We Will Rock You, but just the stomping part.
Oh, man. Mr. Jones and me.
Shout out
Tell
to
each
that
other
man for
fairy
being able to go
I
with
love
Jennifer
Counting
Aniston and Courtney
Crows
Cox.
so much.
Say that again, Jay.
What'd you say?
Shout out to that man for being able to get with Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox.
Whoa, really?
Yeah,
Wait,
lead
the
singer of
lead
Counting
singer
Crows.
Counting Crows?
The dude with
Yeah.
the dreadlocks?
Yeah.
The white guy dreadlocks?
I forgot what his name is. Adam something.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Incredible.
Adam Duritz. Yeah, got
That
with,
is August
Like-
and Everything After is my favorite album of all time.
I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time.
This has been the best bit for like 15 minutes.
Let's never let it drop.
Let's see. I will say when they cut to that is kind of interesting when you were talking about the kid, because they're like talking, and she goes, I'm pregnant, and he's like, we should have told Fallon. So it's like that one was the dad probably.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't matter like which one it was, it doesn't matter, but it was just like when they're in the apartment and he's like, he's like, oh, we should have told that guy, like the one you had sex with.
Wait, this has me thinking.
Wait,
like-
can I backtrack? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Dex.
He's gonna get there.
Dex, go
Caitlin,
ahead.
your point is probably more interesting. Go ahead.
No, you do yours because you spoke first.
Okay, cool.
Aw.
So like having sex with the wife,
Oh.
does she like have to teach both of them what she likes? Like, does she have to, like, are they swapping notes, or like is she
Oh,
training
look,
them
Dex,
both?
Dex,
Ninety.
this
That's-
is
This
your
is
fatal
purely for
flaw
procreation.
because you're a good man. But I think you think most men care.
I did write down later they were just doing the literal the Urban Dictionary Houdini. If you don't know what that is,
right now.
yeah, go ahead.
Like, you know,
I'll give you some time. Go ahead, give it a Google and read us what it is.
Hold on.
I don't like that.
Are we ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
As the man
Yep.
reaches climax whilst in the doggy style position, the man pulls out and spits on their partner's back, fooling them into thinking that he has ejaculated. However,
Oh no, that's
their
the wrong
partner
one. That's the
turns
wrong one.
around.
That's the wrong one. That's the wrong
Wait,
one.
no, but wait, read it because I had to read it so everyone now has to hear it.
That's the wrong one. Sorry.
Finish it,
When the
Dex.
partner turns around, the man lets loose his baby yogurt in his
Oh.
Partner's face.
Oh.
I took, and this is the
No.
sentence. I took my weenie and pulled a Houdini in her eye. Then she cried.
Oh.
Then okay.
Jesus. No, the one I was thinking about, I guess it's called like The Stranger or something like that.
That's something else, sir.
I know that's something else, but there's
There's
I don't
also
know.
this one. A Houdini can refer to a sex act where a male who's fucking a chick doggy style in front of a first floor window.
Yes, that.
quickly pulls out, and his friend jumps in to continue
Oh.
banging her. The first man then proceeds to run naked and dance in front of his his bitch outside the window.
That one.
Magic, eh? Nonetheless, the more accepted definition is the genuine spit and skeet technique.
Oh no.
This is.
Oh, we're gonna cut some of this out.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
we're
strongly
not.
debating cutting all of this out.
No, but the
Please
Houdini
don't.
was the one that you just read is what I was talking about. They're literally
And
doing
then
that
you
with
dance in front of that bitch.
Sarah.
Magic.
Women are referred to as bitches way too much.
Let's
Wait,
see.
I was gonna backtrack though, because before they get together, like before their marriage, before they have their baby. Y'all remember the scene with her nephew, right? Where
Yes.
so like with the bird, and he shouts out like,
Where's
oh my
his brother?
god, you killed it. And then the whole like
Foreshadowing.
brother thing. Yeah. So someone was talking about that as like total foreshadowing, where it's like, you also killed the brother. But the problem is the metaphor doesn't extend anywhere else, because otherwise the metaphor for the birds is just used for women. So I don't know. That's like one of the metaphors that really bugs me, because it doesn't continue throughout the rest of the story like unilaterally.
Mm-hmm.
It takes on some weird, like, I don't know, like when you use a metaphor in literature, you're supposed to just stick with it and not add like other components to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then there comes this really bizarre like narrative where like the doves are also like the women in cages, like because Scarlett Johansson gets forced into a box, and like then we see, well, first we see a dove getting stuffed into a cage, and then we see Scarlett Johansson being stuffed into the bottom of a box. So it's like they're also connected somehow. It's
I
weird.
think you might be thinking about it just a little too much.
No, I'm not, because other people have seen it, and it's all where it's like the women are considered similar to the birds. That's pretty accepted.
Yeah.
Not that part, but like the brother
being
thing
stuck-
is literally
oh.
just like that's his brother. Ooh, it's a brother thing. Foreshadowing. Like
Well,
don't think
no,
it's
I
deeper
know,
than
but
that.
I'm saying they do continue the metaphor though at the very end, and I'm trying to remember how, but like, because I remember I wrote it down because I thought it was weird because they don't address that metaphor at any other point. I don't know. I just found it lazy. I don't know. That's all I was gonna say. I think the metaphor just is lazy.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, Nolan just put something that's like, hey, did you catch that?
That's, I guess, what I'm saying is it ends up being like he doubles up his metaphors in a way that just feels like you think you're really fucking smart, and it's making me tired.
Let's see. So they have the worst disguises in this movie, and the fact that one of the brothers didn't know it was just Hugh Jackman in a beard, he was just like,
that was
you, not Hugh Jackman. Like,
yeah,
totally.
I wrote that down too. Like they have literally the worst luck in this movie. Like, how do y'all keep picking the one person who's about to fuck up your shit every single time?
Mhm.
I
Y'all do a magic trick.
tell.
I couldn't tell. I should have known. Like,
Yeah, you should have maybe.
Yeah, maybe because he's wearing. I'm gonna put on this. I'm irrecognizable, and he's just like pubes on his face. Like that's what. Like it's not good.
Also, that trick. I feel like we're at a point in time where stage guns exist. It feels very concerning to hand a random person a gun.
Yes.
No matter
Well, they
what.
talk about it, but they're just like, nah, it'll never happen.
It'll never happen. Nobody will ever just randomly carry around bullets.
Looks like
especially not the guy whose wife I killed.
Yeah, he's definitely not out for revenge.
Let's see.
Did I kill him? Her?
He tied the Langford double. We already talked about that. He keeps saying, I don't know, which is irritating. He did.
I think it's fair to say it might be the brother. I think that's actually a good explanation on like maybe why he is like, I don't really know. Yeah. If we're going to accept that that's even real.
Even still, though, I don't know is the wrong answer to give at a funeral.
I agree.
Come on, bro. That's the wrong thing to say. Right?
You show up after everyone thinks it's your fault. Just be like, no, I tied the other one. She's just bad at it.
Like just
say
be
something.
like, she's just a dumb bitch like all of them. Haha.
They would have 1860. They would have been like, oh, you know what?
They would have been like, women are stupid.
Let's see. I don't say call me a pig or whatever, but Scarlett Johansson is so good looking. Like it's just crazy. Like it's just like especially in this film, I'm just like, whoa. Like I don't know what that was. Just like, yeah, she's I get it. The little line they say like your hands are dirty is like my hands aren't dirty. It's like someday you might have to get your hands dirty. Okay. Thank you for the foreshadowing there, Professor. They just keep showing up and hurting each other like spy versus spy. Like they're just like like it's just like I don't know. It's just kind of funny at some points. Like at the third time, it's comedy. Like, but when he shows up and literally traps that woman's fingers in the bird cage, I was out loud kind of like, oh,
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
like that's messed up, man.
I wrote down, I'm glad birds aren't real. Hashtag birds aren't real.
All drones spied on by the government to make you
That's
wear those
right.
masks that you don't want to wear. I'm kind of confused by timelines in this because they go by each other's journals, but then it like skips from real life to journal to them reading. The timelines in this are sort of, it's not the worst, but there's a couple of jump cuts, like you were saying, Jake, where I was just kind of like, wait, where are we right now in this story?
Yeah, I wrote down, I can see how this would be like extremely disorienting if you've never seen this movie before, but I don't remember being disoriented the first time that I watched it, so I don't know. But if people were confused by the time in Little Women, there's no way that they understand this movie.
Which I
Right.
also don't understand. I still don't quite understand people being confused by Little Women. I find
It's
that
so fucking obvious.
it's not.
Little
Wow. It's almost like she's remembering things. Yeah, I don't want. But anyway, but like I find this one jumpy, but like I think. I don't know how I honestly kept up with it when I was a kid because I watched it when I was super young and I probably didn't. But like it's a movie that's so easily like distractible in a weird way. Like it works as a sleight of hand. I think it's not about magic, but I think it operates in a lot of ways as like magic where it's like it looks pretty.
No, it
And
absolutely
you can
does.
get-
I mean, we start the movie where they basically tell us like, we're just gonna fucking pull a trick on you, and here's how we're gonna do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the timeline, like looking at it objectively now, like to actually like nitpick it, the timeline switches are pretty jarring. But I think if you just watch it on the surface level, or if you're just casually watching it, there's so much happening, and it's easy enough to grasp because you're constantly trying to figure out the next step. You're an active participant in a magic trick. Like you're trying to figure out
Yeah.
the trick before the magician shows it to you, so that way you're not got. So you tend to ignore the details of like time is switching and the unreliability of a narrator.
Which I also think it's interesting. It basically works as like a murder mystery, like in some sense, which also is interesting with the themes of obsession. Because like the entire point of like a murder mystery, the way that it's like, I forget, Agatha Christie has basically a quote about this, that like her entire goal is to make the reader so obsessed that they can't put it down, like that you can't stop until you know. And I think like what is interesting is that like it puts you in the same position kind of as like the main characters where you're like, I can't not try to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like I have to know what the answer. So it's like we also become in a smaller way obsessed.
Yeah,
I need to know how the man is vanishing.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't take away from it. I mean, it opens with like a murder mystery, like, oh, Hugh Jackman's dead. Like we know this already, you know. So,
So
it's
how do
just,
we get from A
yeah.
to B?
And working backwards in that is a very Christopher Nolan. It's not, he didn't like invent this, but like it's a very Nolan genre thing to like kind of work backwards through a lot of things. But I think that it kind of jumps around a little bit too much in the middle somewhere where you're just like, all right, is this the journal entry? Where are they right now? And it doesn't take away, and it almost adds to the very ending of the movie. But I think you're so enamored with the ending of the movie that like the middle part where you're just like, oh, it doesn't matter anymore.
The beginning and the ends of this movie are so fucking spectacular that I think you can ignore a lot of the stuff in the middle. Because I do think that, like, for me on second watching, I think that is kind of like what I realized is that I remember the beginning and I remember the end.
Right.
I don't
But,
really give a shit on the middle. Like, there's no scene really in the middle that I'm like, amazing.
But that's how the magic trick always works, right? It's
Yeah.
like
No, I agree.
You're presented an ordinary object, and then you don't care how we get to the end. You just care about the ending. You want to be dazzled first.
Which
and then
isn't-
you spend the whole time going, how did I get dazzled? Because I thought I was better than this.
Are we
Yeah.
saying that the middle of this movie has no merit when David Bowie walks out of literal lightning?
You're right. You're right. I'm wrong.
Incredible. That's
I'm wrong.
incredible.
I give
It
up.
is.
No, but I think it's such an interesting commentary because, like, I read something somewhere that all books are about books and all movies are about movies. Like, everything
Absolutely.
is secretly about filmmaking and everything is secretly about, like, all books are about writing a book. And,
Oh.
like, which is an interesting theory of, like, reading and watching that,
That's
like,
super meta.
academics love it. But I think it works
Nolan, he lives in the
especially-
meta world.
I
Yeah.
think this is especially true about this movie. This movie is ultimately about how to make a film.
Yeah.
Like, it's the magic trick of filmmaking. It's about Nolan's personal obsession. It's about like
if his movies weren't so good and made for like audiences like me, big dumb idiot, like if they weren't also made for me and I didn't understand it, it would almost be pretentious. But
I mean, Memento is an art film.
He
Memento
is pretentious, but like you can still watch his movies, which is kind of an interesting thing about Christopher Nolan, especially to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Because I think some of his earlier stuff is less approachable. Like, I found Memento really, really hard. Like, I rewatched it about 2 years ago, and I'm like, that's a weird, difficult movie.
Yeah.
That I'm honestly surprised audiences liked. Because it's slow as fuck.
Hadn't seen like that. He hadn't seen anything kind of like that in a long time.
Yeah. And I think what's cool about the Prestige is it does a lot of the work of something like Memento, like what he's trying to say about time and like film with appealing to a mass audience without being like just a pretentious art piece that doesn't make anyone happy. Like,
that's why he probably has a lifetime deal at Warner Brothers, because they're like, they always say one for me, one for you, or something like that.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers is basing their entire stock options right now
off a Tenet.
off a Tenet.
Please, God, wear your mask. I want to go see that movie. Holy shit.
I love how literally all of us are like, we have no idea what the fuck is happening in the Tenet trailer, but like, we with it. Let's go.
I'm going to rank that number one in our Nolan rankings. I don't even
without ever seeing it, we're just like, this is clearly the best.
It could be a piece of crap, and it. I don't think it will be. I think it
won't.
All of his movies are like 70 and above.
Yeah, they're at least passable.
But it has the potential to be really great, or just everybody just let down so hard.
Yeah.
Anyway,
take it back around.
Sorry, yeah.
Related. It always reminds me, Bare Naked Ladies have a song called, it's Blues Travelers have a song called Hook, which is just a song about how you could say anything, but as long as the hook and the chorus of the song is catchy, everybody will love it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that's happening in Prestige, is that as long as the audience is dazzled, whatever happens in the middle doesn't matter, because at the very end you're not wondering like.
That would be really super meta by Christopher Nolan to make a middle part of the film.
No, but I
think what it is.
I don't think it's intentional.
No, it's not. It's not like shitty. He's not going to make a bad film, but I think there is a subtle wink and a nod going on there from the Nolan side,
where he slows it down at least.
He slows it down. The pacing
to like the people that he considers, film people that are on his level, that he can, wink and nod and be like, yeah, the audience doesn't give a shit about this, but we know. I know you know, but we know.
Because it's like, I think the middle is constructed so much slower. And it's what it's invested in feels different than what the beginning and the end are invested in, which I think is interesting. I don't know. I think that's probably right. I think Nolan very much, maybe we're giving him too much credit, but I feel like there is a certain level of intentionality.
Anybody if you ever listened to any interviews about Chris, not by him, but about him, is that everything, like any actors that have always worked with him have always said like everything he does is intentional, which is crazy to think about.
Then I would say that he is intentionally making a film that's basically about the like magic of filmmaking and how it's basically a giant ruse.
Like he's not Michael Bay just lucking into something. Like he's just like.
Why do I feel? I wish I was a Christopher Nolan, but I know I'm a Michael Bay, and I find that like really disheartening sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a movie about the process of telling a story in which they tell you exactly what the story is in the beginning, and still you at the end you're like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah,
they literally tell you the 3 parts of the film.
No, they
spoil
it
at the end.
Oh, absolutely.
They spoil the fuck for you.
You start in media res, and you're still amazed at the end. Like,
and like they do exactly what they tell you, that if you watch the trick, you'll know how the trick is done. Like if you watch the right stuff. And like literally in the middle, it tells you everything you need to know to basically know what's happening with both of them.
Yeah,
but
if you
like
look at the other hand, the one that's not in your face, you'll see how the trick's done, but you never look at that hand.
Yeah, you never do.
Let's see. We got to talk about David Bowie, the best part of this film.
The best part. Man, give me a whole film. I mean, I realize he's dead, but give me a whole film of David Bowie and Andy Serkis just doing science. I don't don't care if it's just like an argument on quantum physics. Just like let them hang out. That's all I want.
Give me this Edison beef on film.
Yeah, what the hell? They just like I wrote that down. And it's just like Thomas Edison's just a big douchebag. Like he's just like everybody.
I mean, historically, that's where we are now.
We've come around on Thomas Edison, but it's just sort of like it is sort of interesting where they're just like hide it from Edison, like don't let the big bad Edison see. And but it is kind of funny that you see most of that off screen and then they just burn his thing down. But it's just like his accent. I don't know about his accent, but it's just like he's a good actor, man.
He is actually a good. But
like,
it makes sense. He was in other stuff.
Well, yeah, but not as many as you would think. Well, going back in his filmography, like there's a huge gap between the one that he starred in the 80s.
Labyrinth.
There's like a huge gap between Labyrinth and then he does something out like TV or something like that. Or
he did The Last Temptation of Christ.
Yeah, like there's just
and he played Pontius Pilate.
Oh God.
Makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
I wash my hands.
But like the accent's like whatever, but the way he's a good actor, which is so surprising in this. And the wink and the nod by Christopher Nolan to be like, I'm gonna have David Bowie walk out of lightning. Like, of course you are.
Well, and like also he like apparently didn't want to do this movie, but apparently Nolan was like, absolutely, I will not think about anyone besides David Bowie. Like David Bowie is my only option.
Mm-hmm.
Like
if I'm David Bowie, I'm like, why is that my problem?
Well,
don't think about anybody else. I don't care.
Apparently Nolan had to fly out to see David Bowie and talk to him for like 20 minutes, and like David Bowie was like, fine.
I'm British, you're British, why are we arguing?
I'll do it. But my favorite thing about him is like he is just so inherently magical, like his presence, but also like even his fucking eyes are magical because he has that like crazy heterochromia where it's like one eye is like this bright fucking crazy blue and the other one's like just like he's just kind of a magical being. Like
so pretty, man. He's so good looking.
So pretty. David Bowie is a fine piece of man.
And I know this is, again, it's the turn. It's look at the dangly thing and not pay attention to what the other hand is doing. But I appreciate that they absolutely did nothing to disguise David Bowie. It was immediately like, no.
Yeah.
You're fucking Starman. What are you going to do about it?
I wish he would have come out in like the 80s Bowie garb with like eyeliner and like just like big.
He has the actual. He has his own lightning bolt around his eye.
Boy, I'm Nikola Tesla. You're just like what? He was good, man. Him and Serkis. Serkis also criminally underrated actor.
Oh my God, yeah.
Incredibly criminally underrated. Like carrying Planet of the Apes while being the ape is incredible. Also, like just like the best motion capture performer of all time, and nobody really knows. But yeah, he's just super underrated, and he's underrated when they were talking about in Planet of the Apes if he should have won an Academy Award. Mm-hmm. Just like give him something. Like what do we? Let's see. Not a great British accent, actually very bad by Scarlett in this.
Hers slips all the time too, and I'm
very,
like,
very bad. Why make her? I don't know.
She slips American a bunch in this movie, and she otherwise turns out a really good performance. But I'm like, your accent slips super bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not. It's
not consistent.
Very much not great.
Also, where is it from? I watched an analysis of accents, and they couldn't like tell where this was even supposed to be from, like her accent. They were like, "This has no like where in the UK are you trying to have your accent be?"
Accent from origins unknown. I'm sorry, that's a different movie, but.
So I did write. Imagine having a doppelganger in real life.
So my biggest question is, how did they just
that
find?
Would be nuts.
How extremely convenient.
Yeah, exactly.
How did they just find Rob's doppelganger who looks exactly like him?
Michael Caine is God.
Like, there's no, like, at least with Borden and Fallon, there's an explanation on why there's, like, an identical person. But, like, in what world is your doppelganger?
Everybody's a twin. Or everybody's a clone. Everybody's a clone. So even Shakespearean drug actor was also a clone. We just did it.
Also,
There's like 5 white man faces, so like it's not that hard.
That
I
You're
love that.
right.
I love that theory on Twitter. It's incredible. It's just like they all look the same. The thing with the doppelganger, it's not a great performance by Jackman.
it's horrible.
It's not very good.
They're not different people.
No, but I do like how they like gave him fake teeth and stuff. But he'll look just different enough where it's just like his teeth.
Costuming did
Yeah.
a great job in this movie. It is
Yeah.
not Jackman. Like, it's not their fault that Jackman could not turn out a performance as a different character.
It wasn't great. It was just like, I'm drunk, Hugh Jackman. We're like, okay, right. We've
The
seen your
new transported man.
yeah. We've seen your body, Hugh. We know you don't drink like that. Let's see. Hold on, sorry.
Oh, no.
I
Zac
also
Efron
wrote
was-
down
Yeah, go ahead.
what Zac Efron.
I was just
what?
gonna say Zac Efron was an alcoholic and he had a body like that, so theoretically,
I guess so. Yeah.
Jackman could.
The
Sorry, that
superior
wasn't
dad
important.
bod.
God, what a dumb tweet.
No, it's so fucking stupid.
I was gonna say that I just loved like him posing to no one like after doing the
well, yeah,
transported man.
I did like him bowing under this. That shot was good.
Yeah.
Dope.
It was very good, but it was just like how bad that would suck just to perform a whole magic show and then somebody cheer for somebody else.
Yeah.
I did that. That was me. Give me attention. That is Hugh Jackman in this, though. Give me attention.
I'm a performer.
Literally the whole time.
That's really my only complaint with this movie is that his motivations make no sense because originally it's I need revenge for my wife and then it becomes I need to be the greatest magician in the world. Fuck whoever my wife was.
Is
doesn't
it
matter
because
anymore.
he wants because he knows Borden's ambition is to be the most successful, so he just wants to take away from Borden?
You could dig
Is
into that a little bit. I feel like
don't think-
it's worth digging into that.
I don't think Jackman is a good enough actor for me to believe that that's true.
Well, then I just think he becomes so obsessed with what Borden is doing, regardless of what it is, that he just has to one up him. And I think that's the easiest characterization to make.
Maybe,
Really,
yeah.
I guess my bigger question is more along the lines of when does it stop becoming a revenge plot and when does it become I need to be better regardless?
And
because eventually the wife gets forgotten.
Because isn't it? Maybe it's just an obsession
It's after
plot the
Johansson-
entire time.
It's after Johansson shows up and starts slanging it
He's
around.
like, I don't know. She got bigger titties anyway. No, but I think maybe it's that it's an obsession plot from the get-go. So it's like it's always an obsession with Borden. It's either Borden obsessed because you killed my wife. It's Borden obsessed because you're better than me. I think ultimately the easiest way to explain it is that it's just he's always obsessed with Borden. The reason changes.
I took the
ahead.
wanting like the cheers and stuff thing to be just an obsession of its own, like because
Yeah.
whether or not they're cheering for actual you, like bowing under the stage has nothing to do with Borden. That's an obsession, like on your own. Because
Well, I do think it has something to do with Borden because it's like I'm better. Like they love me more.
I figured out the better version of this trick.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but like just
Like I did it.
if your obsession is with Borden at that point, it's like people still think that's you, whether or not you're bowing under the stage.
True.
Because-
Like you still just have the obsession like of wanting the attention, the applause.
Because
But
they
his
have this whole
ultimate-
conversation with
the
Michael
whole
Caine.
nobody cares about the man in the box thing. It's like an obsession with
I
like,
understand.
actually getting the attention, not with Borden.
I
having
understand, but all of that was less important than making sure Borden found him underneath the stage and was incarcerated. Like that is still the ultimate goal of this trick. Like the trick is only done so that Borden can eventually go to jail.
After
like,
the fact. That's after he gets
No,
the,
we're talking about when he has
After
the
he
actual
gets-
double still.
when he
not,
still has
like,
the
clone
double.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's bowing
Like, when
under
he's
the
actually
stage.
bowing
After,
under the stage. The
after-
Oh,
first
you're
time
just
they do the
talking about
trick.
okay. I don't
he starts
know.
it kind of does, Jake, you're right, it does flip-flop where he he's obsessed because he has this long conversation with Michael Caine about maybe we could switch positions or whatever, and I could be. And they're just like, no, you have to do the entire magic show, Dick. Like, it's not. It is kind of an interesting sort of flip flop there.
There is the one point where he
know.
actually literally says, "I don't care about my wife."
I don't know.
He did say that too.
Trajectory of an 1890s magician. Like, where does this end? Really?
You die of syphilis at 45.
Yeah, because you have like sex with like a bunch of different assistants, and then you get syphilis.
Like, what is there a lot of fame and fortune? Like, is he eventually going to sell out?
I mean, Houdini does become extremely famous.
That's fair.
It is interesting.
There's not that much fame because, like, at one of the later shows, Christian Bale like performs or whatever. He walks out to his carriage and everybody's like cheering for him and whatnot. Then he just decides he's gonna walk home and nobody follows him. Nobody cares. Yeah. Nobody stops him on the street. They're just like, okay, cool, bye.
I don't know. I think it's supposed to be modeled after like the idea of like becoming like, because I mean, like Houdini was also super in bed with Edison, which I think is an interesting historical note, that we have these magicians in bed with Tesla, and Houdini was like literally super in bed with Edison.
I do find it funny that they literally did Tesla, which is kind of like, it is interesting because I put this in the group message last night. Is like, why just not make him Bill the science wizard or whatever? Yeah. Like, you know, he could have been anybody. But Dex, you did have a good point.
Yeah, it's just like the audience already knows Tesla for like doing sparky magic shit. Like, you just
well, and I think it also like
roll with it.
Yeah, like I also do think like both of those men do have actually like historical connections to like actual magicians. Like Edison, at least, like was super connected into the like magic world. And
Edison's like, I can't figure this out on my own. I need a wizard.
I forget like what it was, but
science doesn't matter.
When Houdini died, like all the lights went out in all of New York City or something because he was so connected to Edison. It was like a super weird coincidence. Like obviously, like Houdini's ghost didn't turn off all the lights, but like everything went out.
What do you mean? Obviously.
I mean,
why are you saying that with absolute certainty?
Because I am Houdini, but that's actually like literally Houdini's.
I'm the real Houdini.
I am Houdini. But Houdini's wife held a séance every day on the anniversary of his death, and apparently, like a couple times, the lights went out when she was holding seances.
Not like just continuing. The death of Houdini is so crazy because it's like one of the most preventable things. It's like if you just would have gone to the doctor,
or if he could have just braced his core better.
Yeah, if you just, you would have just gone to the doctor, they could have been like, "Oh yeah, you're bleeding."
Yeah, no, it's kind of but I think it actually totally makes sense to have a Tesla actual figure because historically, and also because of what Jax was saying, it makes it easier for the audience. So there's like a bunch of cool reasons.
Imagine fucking Christopher Nolan having to explain. So there's this like science wizard guy, but there's this other science wizard guy who has beef and so destroys his shit. It's like, no,
the beef with the beef with Edison didn't add anything. They're just like, oh yeah, Edison's gonna come around and burn your stuff to the ground. Like, why?
But it does kind of make it funnier when you consider like the two things Edison did in this period. Joining up with another magician. So in this alternate reality, Tesla and Edison both have a gang of magicians that like they're hanging around.
Rival magicians just fighting it to the death.
And also Edison's like magic trick is basically frying a fucking elephant.
Edison's magic trick is stealing other people's invention. Johansson, Scarlett's just falling in love with everybody, man.
Yeah.
It takes 2 seconds for her to whoa, jeez.
I literally wrote down, why did you fuck this man? You did not need to fuck this man.
Yeah, why'd you fuck every single person, Scar?
Didn't have to. Didn't have to. She went over there and she was like, oh, I'm already in love with Christian Bale. And you're just like, what? That took 2 seconds.
Which makes sense because Christian Bale's hotter. But it's also like really her body count is all fucked up. Like body counts are made up anyway. But she thinks she's only had sex with 2 people.
Whoops.
But there is a third man.
There's a legitimate chance you had sex with another man. You had sex with his brother also.
That's problematic. I don't want to go into that, but like that's fucking weird.
I love how she goes up to Christian Bale and she's like, he wants me to double cross you, but I'm double crossing him, so it's a triple cross. But I might be quadruple crossing you. So the turntables, because they turn tables, turn
turn
tables.
tables.
And Christian Bale and the other guy are just like, well, we'll just give her a plant diary, right? Like they use her back like it was just like really easy just to be like, just give her the diary and anyway.
Olivia's like,
Nah,
I'm
one of
so
them was
fucking
like,
smart.
I already hit, so like we're just gonna give her the diary.
This movie fucking hates women. This movie fucking hates.
Still beat though.
Still beat. The "Do you love me" line it seems mean in the context when you're watching the film where it's like, "Do you love me?" Not today. Damn. But like it makes more sense when you realize the twist at the very end.
Well,
where
it
it's
also
just like it's not the same guy. Where it's just
Still
like,
the wrong thing to say though.
yeah.
No,
I don't love you today.
But it's also like one of those things that I was watching it and I was like, damn, I've been there. Like where I can like tell that someone does not like me or doesn't mean what they're saying. And I think with the twist, it's like, so I think it works on a lot of levels of like, it's actually very emotionally meaningful, I feel like. But then it's also just like, yeah, also working for the twist, which is interesting. And also
just very
honesty.
mean. It's just very
well, she's
mean.
like,
just a dick thing to say, fam.
But to be fair, she's just like, just be honest with me for fucking once. And he's like, yeah, no, I don't love you.
I wrote down that and the funeral scene where he says he doesn't know what knot he tied. It's like, y'all gotta be better liars than this. Like, y'all are magicians who have been hiding
lying.
a double life. It's like, y'all, you need to be a better liar. Like, just lie more.
But he's not lying. This is the first
Just
time
lie
he's
more.
honest.
Lie.
Just keep
lie
lying.
right now.
Just
know
keep
when
lying.
to lie. This is a very good time to lie.
No, we don't need to teach men to lie more. And
They're
that's not what we're
lying
going to do
about
on
a
this
double
podcast.
life. They're already lying about a double life. Just keep doing
what's
it.
one more lie? That way she doesn't kill herself. I think that's a better outcome.
Well, we don't know. To be fair, I don't think he knows she's gonna kill herself.
There is like zero indication that she's gonna hang herself. And
I
then
don't
she
like
just
that scene.
does. And that was shocking on rewatch because I forgot that happened.
I'm gonna be really honest. I don't like, and part of the reason I'm giving this an A- is I really fucking hate everything Nolan does with both of those women. And the suicide is completely unnecessary. It makes no sense for her character. I don't like it at all.
Doesn't make any sense. And I was just kind of like, I audibly was like, oh shit. Like I was just kind of like, what was...
He straight up did it to do a crushed bird metaphor, basically. Like to like connect her to the birds that are surrounding her. Because like that shot is literally just her and her hanging herself with the birds in the cages. And like he's brought up this metaphor throughout the fucking movie for like 5 years. Like the fact that these women are connected to birds in cages, like I get it. And also it's been done before. Like, wow, amazing. But like, and it's also about like dedication to the art, I guess, because those birds also are connected to like how far are you willing to go? Like, are you willing to crush this bird? Like, whatever.
Yeah, but there's
like,
just no indication that she is like
that's,
even like they have an argument. And it's a bad argument, but there's like no indication that she's this unhappy. There's like 2 seconds of characterization where he's like, "You're cheating on me." And like, no, I'm not. And then she just hangs herself. Where it's
that's
just like, took a jump.
I'm saying this is a metaphor, and it annoys me when this happens. This is, I feel like, a metaphor for metaphor's sake. Like they did it just to do it. Like, and that annoys me. I don't like something that it felt lazy. I
didn't see the metaphor to begin with, so like. Like you're probably right, but I just was like sitting there going like, as just a dumb brain idiot, I was sitting there just going like,
I don't know, because it's just like it was just stupid.
I was just sitting there
take
like
it as a metaphor either. I was just like, she doesn't enjoy being.
Really?
If you take it at face value, it's still stupid. It's still just kind of like
surprised
she doesn't know if her husband loves her or not, and she has this very difficult time like dealing with fame and him like being with other women, and she couldn't take it and she killed herself. That's what I took it as.
Because they set it up from the very beginning with the birds that like, because Scarlett Johansson is super cleanly associated with birds, and so is Sarah from like their introductions, and like they're associated specifically with caged birds and caged birds dying. Because Scarlett Johansson is associated with the dove, which seems very intentional, and Sarah's associated with these the little canaries, basically. Those are the birds that she's most cleanly associated with.
Or we could be looking too far into this.
No, because women in cages.
That's what I'm taking.
Birds in cages and women are like a metaphor as old as time. There has never been a bird in a cage and a woman. There hasn't been something about like that woman being caged.
Birds of Prey, like, starring trapped. Margot Robbie.
That is almost certainly about women being caged.
What?
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying
the whole point of the canary is that she's caged.
I'm kidding. The
one Maya Angelou book, and here we are.
I know what. That one's different.
Let's see. How do the clones have the memories? That's my biggest question about it. Where
I don't get that
magic, right? Tesla, the car. I don't know. That is just kind of interesting where it's just like they come out and I remember everything. Really? Like not one of them's an idiot? Like not one of them is just less cognitive function than the other one?
It gets like increasingly dumber.
Yeah,
like
it's just like
Treehouse of Horror where Homer makes the duplicate hammock.
Yeah, it's just they just keep getting just dumber and dumber.
Dumb. I mean, they're now comes the twist discussion because we kind of had to get there.
Well, I will say this really quickly. What do the twin and the do they like wear the beard when they're alone together?
It looks
Stick them together. Like
it looks like it because there's a scene where they're talking to each other.
Do.
Yeah, there's a scene where they're talking to each other like, why does he know how to do this and we can't figure it out? And he has the beard on. It's just like, you take that off. Nobody's here.
Because like when Hugh Jackman is like just like backstage or whatever, just talking to Scarlett Johansson, like they tell the double to get out of there so nobody walks in and sees them. So they probably are that committed to the trick that like they're never alone as the same person.
They're that committed to the trick that they chisel off a finger.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No thanks. No.
Yeah, I don't care about.
Imagine a swig of whiskey and bite into this dowel. This will be over soon.
Yeah, that's
also,
totally.
What I've always
wanted
wanted to know
within a minute.
How old were they when they decided to do this, and how did like they convince the other one? Like whichever one had this idea, like how did he sell it to the other twin?
It's starting to make more sense of that he's a clone.
Yeah, like again, like nobody has ever
do
known.
This. I created you. I don't want to, Father. Do it.
So, here's my one thing because I
yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted your twist.
No. We can get that in a second. Unless Christian Bale's character this entire time knew he was gonna do his own spin-off series and become the world's greatest magician doing this twins act, it would make no sense for this world to ever exist where nobody in this inner circle at the very beginning wouldn't know that he has a twin.
Right.
Otherwise, well, why hide him? Why?
Where's his parents?
Like, yeah, like why? Well, probably died at the age of 10. But but it trips me out to think that like somehow this has been planned for so long that they have to constantly live these double lives, and for him to launch Christian or Hugh Jackman to Tesla, like it's all very coincidental and fuckery.
Yeah. Go ahead with your twist.
Does the original Christian Bale die after the first duplication?
You mean Hugh Jackman?
Yeah.
No, because he shoots him. Because he puts the gun there and he knows the gun is there.
So we know that the machine does nothing except make a duplicate.
Yeah.
So immediately the machine. All right. So the first time he shoots the duplicate, but every time after that it goes straight in the box. So the duplicate becomes Christian Bale. So eventually Christian Bale died.
Hugh Jackman. We got to get on this.
Thank you. I know. It's going to fuck me up the whole time. So eventually Hugh Jackman died for the trick.
Yes.
Hugh Jackman died
several times, probably.
Yeah.
The original Hugh Jackman is dead.
Yeah.
I would have to say, because like you have to do it on stage.
Imagine wanting to get at your enemy so bad that you're willing to die for your trick, and he never gets to experience the applause.
Yeah, that is the thing.
So-
He never actually
The
personally
real
experiences.
guy never gets to do it.
He
Yeah,
never
he
gets to
never
experience the
wants-
one thing he always wants, which is the admiration of the audience. The clone always gets it.
But that becomes, as like I said earlier, the clone has the memories, so I guess it's just the same, and like still has the plot to put Christian Bale away. So it's just like it's the same dude. So, but it
Yeah.
is sort of interesting
Because
when
like
he
if it
starts.
wasn't the same dude, he would just pop out on stage and be like, "What the fuck am I doing here? Like, what is this shit?" But I guess
Well,
it's
this
like
VCS
the same
ship where-
consciousness.
Yeah.
Having the same consciousness, but it is sort of cold-blooded when the dude's like, it is sort of freaky when the guy's like, wait, and he shoots him. Like that is an very interesting scene, but it is sort of a weird take on
But-
what is consciousness in a film
Yeah.
about time. You know what I mean? Like it's just sort of like what is.
Which
I
lends
don't want to
itself
get
to-
too deep into this, but it's like, what is the meaning of being alive? Like, who is the real person and stuff like that? You know what I mean? And then you kind of get that with the twins and Christian Bale and stuff. It was like, we have these halved experiences. Is that the same as having like the whole experience? You know what I mean? So it's just like, I don't know.
It lends itself to the Christian Bale as a clone theory because they're conscious and aware that they are a clone. Because you would imagine once you're not going to live out the same life as a clone, you would experience the world slightly different, making slightly different changes. I'm going with the clone.
What happens when people stop giving a fuck about that trick?
Yeah.
So like, damn, I just lost 3 fingers for this trick, and nobody gives a fuck about it anymore. I'm old
Yeah.
news.
The thing
Went viral on TikTok one
What
time.
if
and
the,
now
what
we're
if the
done.
new what went viral on TikTok had 11,000 retweets, most with comments, and people are like, "Oh, that was cool." What if the clone, the Hugh Jackman clone, the Hugh Jackman clone just didn't know what to do the rest of the magic show. Like he didn't know that he was supposed to step out and get the
Like, he
applause. He was like, "Wait,
slightly
shit."
dumber.
Yeah. Well, I said the lightly dumber thing, but he just didn't remember the rest of his act, where he just kind of is like, wait. What do I do here? It is sort of interesting because the original Hugh Jackman has to die because the original Hugh Jackman has to
Has to go
perform
in
the
the tank.
trick the first
Yeah.
time in front of an audience. But it is sort of interesting for him to just be like, well, I'll come out on the other side of this, I guess. But
Yeah.
you have to be willing to make sure that, I don't know, it's weird. You have to be willing to, there had to have been an experiment done where they were just like, all right, do you remember my birthday? Do you remember what's our dead wife's name? Like you have to like, there has to be
And
like
it's
a
do
little,
they
like,
have the
They're
do they
like,
both have the
she
same
doesn't matter to me
consciousness?
anymore.
Like when,
right.
because there's a moment when like they're both alive. So like, do they
Mhm.
have the same consciousness at the same time?
Right.
That's what I'm curious about because I think that's what makes the difference on the Borden being a clone argument to a certain extent. Is it's like if their consciousness is totally shared even in the moment, they're twins. Like there's no way because like we have scenes where they're like kind of like explaining, giving instructions to each other. So they're not clearly sharing an identical consciousness. But if they're not sharing the same consciousness, then the clone theory still can hold. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Really
It just
what-
is so, it's go ahead, Jake.
What I was getting to is, since the original Hugh Jackman is dead, it makes the ending less poignant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Because
kind of
it's not mimicking the wife's death anymore because it's not original him. It's
100 times.
4,000. Yeah.
Her 1,000 times. Yeah.
Unless
I mean,
you
he
want to
did
go
drown,
for
though.
some. Unless you want to go down. Well, he gets shot and then it gets burned down and all the things break.
I mean, the original
But
Hugh
I
Jackman
wonder-
did
Yeah, the
drown,
original.
though.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that isn't also part of the point, right? So if they're mimicking their wives' deaths, but significantly after the fact, then they're basically doing. So you know how the tricks, once they're redone, mean less?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's less value to them. I wonder if there's something there. I'm just coming up with this now. I'm reaching a little bit, but like I feel like there's a
You mean
shallowness.
like once we know how the trick is done?
Yeah, once we know how the trick is done, it means less. So it's like once we have Borden's death, which mimics his wife's death, it's a less meaningful death in some ways than like her
Thinking
actual.
this hard is hurting my brain.
But I don't know if I buy that, because as a viewer, I
You
care more
don't buy
about
the
Borden.
theory you presented.
Yes, yeah, because I just
Wait, let me work through this. I got
I
this.
just came
Let
up
me
with
go
it.
to-
might buy it at the end.
exercise.
But I do think that but I wonder if that's just because Sarah's death is so poorly done. But I do buy it with Julia, that it's like her death actually has power and impact, and he repeats it 1,000 times, and each time it means less.
It's like his purgatory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's almost like doing a trick over and over again as people start to understand how it's done. It means less. It's less impressive.
Dude, can you imagine dying 100 times?
That sucks.
Seems like hell.
That is, I think, one of the circles.
Yeah. The thing with
No, it's not.
I just find it so interesting that the real Hugh Jackman had to make the conscious choice to be like, all right, I'm gonna actually kill myself and hope to God this clone knows like
Yeah.
what is going on. Like,
Well, I wonder if they did trial runs. Like,
That's what I'm
where
saying. It's just like-
they did some dress rehearsals where he killed himself.
yeah.
And like, I don't know how. Well, like, there has to be an easier, quicker way to die all these hundreds of times. Like,
Yeah.
drowning
Well,
seems like an awful way to do this to yourself over and over.
Dex,
Him-
it's for the fucking metaphor.
impel yourself on spikes like a Indiana Jones movie. Like you're just,
just-
like,
Just have someone ready to shoot you
Which
immediately.
also
yeah,
is such
one
a
of those
good
blind guys.
Wait, which is such a good point there, Dex, because literally that means Robert was so committed to this metaphor getting to Borden, like being like, I need you to really think about like what I'm doing.
What knot did you tie, dipshit?
Yeah, he's like,
The
I need
only
you to
thing I
really
could think of
fucking
is
think
that
about
would-
this.
Probably be the quietest way to get rid of the double. Because if
Yeah.
there's a gunshot, it'd be very weird. And
Just-
all of a sudden, it's just a random gunshot behind stage at the end of every show.
Ooh, magic.
Dex?
what was that? Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
They do one of those announcements before, like every time you go to a theater thing and there's a gun,
There will be
they always be like,
pyrotechnics.
there will be a gun like aired in the show, and then you're like, when is it gonna happen as an audience member? And then just weirdly underneath the stage there's a gunshot, and you're like, oh.
Every performance 100 times you hear no, wait. Just everybody's just like, what? Did we just hear a murder? And the guy steps up on the balcony, haha, and they're all just like, oh yeah, it's 1875. We don't give a shit.
But then you bring your friend, like, you got to see this trick. No, and they're like, did someone just say no, wait? And it's like, no, it's just part of it. It's part of the show.
part of it.
It's all
It's
part of the
art.
It's part of the
It's
magic.
art.
There's a man that gets murdered downstairs every night.
It's crazy. You gotta
Man
come
in a
see
box.
it. Let's see. The adopting his daughter is cold-blooded. That's
Yeah.
cold-blooded, man. Just
Pretty
like
fucked up.
Even for Michael Caine.
no, not yeah. Even Michael Caine's like, dude, man, like,
Michael Caine's like, ooh.
yeah, that's real messed up, man. Like
You're
that's
doing a
basically
lot, dog. You're doing a lot.
doing too much here, and he was just like, I have to do this. Like, you
Also-
didn't have to. That's kind of mean.
Bold of him to pull off the Valjean trick of faking your death and then coming back slightly more grizzled a little bit later.
I also wrote that down. How many times has Hugh Jackman faked his death in a movie?
To come
The-
back with a slight beard.
No one will
Some
know.
different
No one
person.
will know I was this famous magician by my mustache. I'm
There's
a
like
completely
5 white
different
faces.
person.
You know he cloned Jackman, like remembered seeing Tesla and was like, oh, he had a bitchin' mustache. I'm gonna do that.
I'm gonna take that one. I'm gonna take that one. Also, where's he getting all this money to like?
Again,
Buy
that's
an
why I asked him,
estate.
like, what is the end goal of a magician in the 1890s?
I guess
Like,
he
they
made
can't be
bank on
making
those
it over.
100 performances.
Clearly.
Yeah,
But like, did they just give it to some random dude though? Like,
But
'cause
imagine
he's
the
allegedly
overhead
dead.
cost of constantly buying boxes filled with water.
yeah, that's not cheap.
Yeah, how are they having to like pour buckets into that every night?
The guy that
Men are like,
the
They're
guy
like
that keeps
a-
selling him those boxes are like, What's this guy?
The
eat
blind
all
men
these
like
boxes?
pushing it in and out are like, it's always lighter when it goes in. Why is it so much heavier as it leaves?
Do they have running water in the olden days, or are they just like filling up buckets and like pouring it into this tank
I
every
think they're
single
filling
day?
up buckets. I think they're filling up buckets.
Yep.
Jesus, that's commitment.
Imagine being that delivery guy, like every day, like, oh, another box to support
Another
water.
100-gallon tank for you, Hugh Jackman. Totally
you
not
doing
putting
some,
dead bodies in this, right?
you doing some fish tricks? You SeaWorld?
Oi, mate, I haven't
Photo
seen that. This hadn't been part of your act since that girl died. Yeah, I know.
Oi, mate.
The end is, hold on. This is you know what I said when I said about the fisherman, 5 minutes, and he said it was like going home. He's like, yeah, he said it was like going home. I lied. It was agony. Bitch. Yeah, keep that one to yourself, man. I don't know. The end of this movie is so much better than the rest of this movie. It just is. Like it all leads up to the end, but the ending of this movie is why people rate this what they rate it.
People watch The Prestige for the prestige of the movie.
Correct.
Shut up.
No, I mean, having Michael
watch
Caine pass by Bale, knowing that he's about to kill Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
the rubber ball was such a flex.
Yeah.
Surprise, bitch.
I win. The abracadabra line was so stupid. That was dumb.
Yeah, it was.
That was very dumb.
Could they not think of a better last word, like at fucking all?
He could have. I mean, he could have said his thing. Are you watching closely? Like which he did say to the guard, which was cold blooded. When he said that, he's like, "Are you watching closely? Like, I'll make it out of this." But like, that could have been his last line. So I don't know why.
I think it probably should have been. Abracadabra's fucking stupid.
Hold on,
because he doesn't say it the entire movie. I don't know.
No, there's something about this. Their initials spell out Abra.
Boo.
Yeah, it's hold on.
Alfred Borden.
Yeah. And Robert Angier. So Abra. That's how on the nose it becomes.
Cool.
I don't like that. That's stupid.
So Jackman committed suicide 100 times. We talked about that. That sucks. I'm glad the ending is a little bit more. I'm glad that it, like it said, because we just wax poetic about like what our theories are on this movie. But I am glad that this movie is one of his more spelled out endings. I feel like a little bit for Nolan, where it's just like, all right, here's how this happened. And I get it. That's the whole unveiling of the trick and everything else. It's less ambiguous, and that's kind of good for this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure.
Because if it was even a touch more ambiguous, we'd be like, no, I need a little bit more on that. And it may have.
I would have been so pissed off like if they didn't explain to us what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, if there was, I don't know. If he just shows up.
What if the ending scene is just abracadabra?
And he hangs, they're just like, shit.
Fuck.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, because the worst possible outcome of this movie is that if we go with the clone theories, is that they're just going to keep doing this to each other forever. That's the worst possible outcome.
That'd be funny, just to keep doing it, just keep cloning each other. What is the ending line in this movie? Because it they say the ending line and then it cuts off and it's incredible. And I wrote down the ending line is great, but I cannot remember the ending line. This is going to kill me. We might have to cut this at like 1:58. We're going to have to cut this out.
1 second. I have to let my dog in or she's going to be on the audio screaming. Lux. You piece of shit, dude. Stop crying.
The sacrifice
for the you're going to come in, don't cry.
Yeah, I'm just going to watch it.
Is it him explaining the 3 parts of a trick again?
Yeah, it is, but there's like one line that he says like,
Here, hold on. Shut up.
oh,
I'm watching it.
Are you gonna still cry? Please don't cry.
I need foreplay.
Show everyone how cute you are, though.
You want to be fooled.
oh, right. Yeah,
Okay.
right. Sorry. So it goes, it just pans over and you see all the boxes and everything. And and it's Michael Caine. You want to be fooled. And then it just cuts to black. And the way that they did that was just like,
Yeah.
it leaves you like, oh, no, wait. Like, so that, I don't know, that I really like the ending, the final frames of this, which was really,
For sure.
really good. Any more notes from y'all? Sorry, we're at 2 hours right now. And we still got to do a ranking.
I'm good.
Well, you've covered it all.
We have covered it all, including some stuff that we
Should not have covered.
should not have covered.
Meh.
So we were originally going to be doing a draft of Christopher Nolan movies, but since he only does like one movie every 3 years, he's only directed 15 movies, and it would have started delving into producing credits, which aren't that many more. Like we would have all had to have picked a DC movie or something like that, a crappy DC film. So we were going to do our Christopher Nolan rankings, top 5 Christopher Nolan movies in our opinion. And we'll just start. We don't have to have an order or anything like this. We'll just start and tell why you feel this way. But we'll go bottom to the top. Jake, what's your number 5 Christopher Nolan movie?
My number 5 is Tenet. It's fantastic. I've seen it. You haven't. No.
I would kill you. I would really want to see that movie.
I got a special screening. Nobody else has had it. In terms of like actual directed, my number 5 is Memento. That is a movie I saw later. I saw it in college, and it's a movie that I will watch sparingly, not because I don't like it, but it's a movie that makes me feel uncomfortable because I have to think, like I have to go through it with each watching. And even though I know what's happening, I know what the story is, there's still so much little detail that confuse me, make me feel uncomfortable. I mean, I love that sensation. I love that a movie that has made me experience emotions that usually movies don't make me feel, but it's not tough, but there's a lot happening. I mean, it's Christopher Nolan's doctoral thesis where it's full of a lot of fluff, full of a lot of weird stuff, but it makes sense.
That movie should have made Guy Pearce a bigger star. Surprised it didn't.
Guy Pearce should be a bigger star.
He really should be. But he's kind of like, oh yeah, that guy. Dex, number 5, Christopher Nolan film.
So yeah, I've only seen 6 Christopher Nolan movies, so picking a top 5 pretty easy. But I'm gonna go with Interstellar at 5. I don't super love it, but I watched it for the first time a couple months ago, I guess, during quarantine, and yeah, it's really good. It's really well done. Matt Damon out of nowhere doing a whole lot of work.
Just the biggest surprise, like when you saw that for the first time, you're like, Matt Damon.
It's Matt Damon being Matt Damon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm a big dumb idiot, so like a lot of it didn't make sense to me, like as it went on, and it's very long, hard to watch at home, and like I had to watch it on like Hulu Live TV or whatever, so like it had commercials in it, which made it an even longer watch. But yeah, like the cinematography is fucking great. The story is interesting. The performances are pretty good. Yeah, Interstellar, number 5.
All-time great soundtrack by Hans Zimmer on the score there.
Big facts.
Big facts. We'll all kind of talk about these movies because Interstellar, of course, is on my list. But Caitlin, number 5.
Batman Begins.
Ooh.
I like Batman Begins. I have a lot of feelings about Christopher Nolan in general that like I think are controversial. Like I really fucking hate Inception. I think it's a genuinely trashed movie. But I don't want to get into that. But like, I actually think Batman Begins.
I don't want to get into it, but I want to drop a big bomb
I'm
take
gonna
on all of
say it.
y'all's.
I'm gonna
Something's
say
gonna be
it.
all of y'all's top
My-
5.
My bet is that some guy made her watch it.
No, I actually genuinely just don't like Inception. I think it
man,
tries
that
too hard to be
hurts.
clever. I think the ending is so, I'm going to be ambiguous to be ambiguous.
But he's
which
come
is
out and
like-
said that it's not.
What?
He's come out and said that it's not.
But that's like J.K. Rowling after the fact being all like, but like these characters are blah, blah, blah. It's like, that doesn't change the film you made, which does have an ambiguous ending. And I do think it was ambiguous for the sake of being ambiguous. And it makes me tired. For all the reasons that Dex was tired with American Psycho, I am tired with Inception.
But I don't think you are, though.
Why do you like Batman Begins?
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So
Batman.
I think that genuinely, I'm trying to think how to phrase this.
Cecilia Murphy?
Nolan makes Scarecrow, which is not the scariest villain on the face of the planet ever, an actually imposing and terrifying villain.
Clearly,
Horrifying.
you've never
Horrifying.
watched the Batman animated series.
I never did. I remember like when
Has
I was
an
a
actual
kid-
pumpkin head in that.
Yeah, like I don't know. I remember before I watched it, like looking stuff up and being like, this seems like the worst fucking villain I've ever seen in my life.
This whole
And then,
thing is like becoming whatever scares you.
Yeah, and I thought that was so fucking stupid. I was like, Stephen King did that in the movie It. Like, I don't know. I just found it like not interesting to me for some reason. But then like when I actually watched it, I found it like the most fucking terrifying villain ever. And like
Horrifying for a PG-13 movie when we were like 10.
Really scary. And like I genuinely think he does a really good job of beginning that really dark and scary Batman. And like I think I don't know, it's fun. I really liked it. That's all I got. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Jake.
Since it's not a draft, because I think we're going to talk about all the Batman films.
Yeah.
Scarecrow's trajectory through the trilogy is really fun.
But it's funny,
Yes.
yeah.
He's a main villain, gets tossed to the side immediately in the beginning of Dark Knight, and then Dark Knight Rises, he's judging people's fate.
Which I think that it's brilliant, honestly.
Mm-hmm. No, it's really
like,
good. Like, because they could have easily gotten rid of Scarecrow.
And
just like it would be a one-off situation, but to constantly use him.
And like he's such an interesting thread, and he's so much more brilliant, I think, and I think that's like the fun of like the villains throughout the trilogy is that they're scary for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like the kind of horrifying genius of Scarecrow. Like the fact he's literally a mastermind and like chemically infusing people with their, I don't know. I think it's just interesting. And like, I don't think it's the best. I think it's the second best Batman in the series. I think.
Incredible origin story.
Yeah, it is.
For sure.
He makes the Bat thing like not as horribly stupid for me.
Yeah, well, it's just like man dresses up as bats, and you're just like, oh, I get it. In the Nolan films, you're just like, makes sense.
Yeah, like you're like, I can accept this as a reality.
What I did like about the Nolan films, and especially, and even when I was like 11, when I first watched Batman Begins, is where it's like the plausibility of his villains makes a lot of sense. Like this is like a real world where it's just like, oh, well, he's injecting people with a chemical that breaks their brain. Like that seems like a real world thing that would happen.
I guess that's what I mean, is that he made Scarecrow into something I was actually scared of.
Yeah,
versus
the commentary on mental health is really good too. That like we immediately accept as fact if somebody was like, oh, this person that's ranting, raving mad is just ranting, raving mad, and we have to throw them away and I'll handle it.
He also delivers one of the best lines in the series where he's like, he's here, who? The Batman.
I also will say I will die for Cillian Murphy.
Dude,
like,
jawline of the gods.
He's so hot in Peaky Blinders. Like, fuck, man.
Yeah, it's very good.
No one should look that way.
Man.
Who pulls off a bowl cut?
I was going to say problematic haircut now, but, you know. White supremacist special. My number 5 is The Prestige.
Sure.
Number 5 is The Prestige. We don't have to talk about that because we just did.
That's good. Why do you put that 5?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I like the movies that are higher in my list more. I
That
feel
makes
like
sense.
are more entertained actually by the movies further in my list. But I think the Prestige, I don't know. It just definitely had to have been in there after rewatching it, and then it holds a special place in my heart as a theater
Really?
kid being shown this. Jake, number 4.
Number 4 is Interstellar.
Yep. It's my number 4 too. We can go
That's
ahead and talk
also
about it.
my number 4.
I mean,
Awesome.
it's good. I think, I mean, obviously across the board, we all like it. It's Memento really is the first time Nolan shows his obsession with time, but I think Interstellar is where it becomes like public, like where he announces his fetish for time and the
Fetish
very
for
concept
time.
of it.
He
Yeah,
wants time to spank him.
I mean, he really does. I mean, that entire the ending when he's in the Matrix and he can talk through the bookshelf is, I mean, it's just the Nolan brothers congratulating themselves over their understanding of the complex nature of time.
Yes.
Oh, let me leave, Murph.
My
Also-
only issue with Interstellar is just how badly it gets Murphy's Law wrong. And I only found that out in college because I went to school with like everyone that ever does STEM and like a lot of people who ended up working for NASA. And they were all like, that's not really Murphy's Law. Like this movie gets it horribly fucking wrong for some reason. And they even consulted NASA scientists, which is why I'm surprised that like,
Yeah,
They-
the black
Kip
hole
Thorne.
is.
what?
They like use the theoretical
Yeah.
physicist like Kip Thorne or whatever his name
Yeah,
was
but
to design
apparently
the wormhole.
they actually opted, I think, to simplify Murphy's Law because it's actually way more complicated than that.
Whatever
It's like-
can happen will happen.
That's not it at all. Like,
Interstellar for me, I mean, Dex, we'll get back to your number 4, but since it's all our number 4, like it has lost a little bit of luster since I saw it in the theater, because seeing it in the theater, it was an experience, man. It was a trip.
it's really cool. in
And it's
theaters.
like, I'll never forgive my friends for going and seeing it first without me. But when they got back, they're like, dude, it was incredible. Shut up. I don't want to like, but it is a trip. I think it's one of McConaughey's better performances, even though he's sort of doing the same thing that he did in Dallas Buyers Club. I don't think the ending where he's talking through the bookshelf should have been the ending. I think it would have been a better ending, left even more ambiguous, of when he's going through the black hole and it just is like, what happens next is like the last line he delivers before it blacks out the screen, which I think that was supposed to be the original ending and people hated it. But
That feels
having
right.
but having him come and talk to Murphy when she's like 110 is very emotional and very good. But I think this has lost a little bit of luster since. Technical achievement, it's incredible. Most of the effects are practical, like the whole spaceship is practical. Anne Hathaway gives a solid performance as well. I still cry when he's sitting there looking at the computer screen crying. It's great. And also when they come back, unintentional comedy of when they come back from the water planet. It's like, y'all have been gone for 40 years. It's just like, oh no. That messes me up a little bit. And that, because I'm obsessed with how far you have to go in space and how relative time is the closer you get to planets and gravitational fields and stuff like that. I was obsessed with that in college too. May or may not be substance related with that, but the thing with like theoretical physics and being able to go through wormholes and stuff, I was obsessed when I found out that Christopher Nolan was going to be doing that movie, and they get a lot of it right, and they get
most of it right.
Yeah.
They have to simplify a lot, which makes it's
Which is
theoretical physics.
Yeah, like, thank you. And and also like just and we've talked about this movie for a long time, but just a great score by Hans Zimmer, incredible score, like that just builds emotion with that. And I really do like how hopeful sort of the ending is also with this movie.
I just find Matthew McConaughey endlessly likable, and I know that's probably I want to not like Interstellar because I feel like in some ways it's too much of a love story to like Space Odyssey, and it's too much of a like
It is
film.
very much, there was a trajectory where Nolan was going to copy
Yes.
copy his films verbatim, it felt like.
That's I guess my thing is I was like, cool, you want to
You're
do
copying
Kubrick.
Kubrick, yeah.
Like you want to do some Kubrick, let's do it. But like
Just do a quick Kubrick. Just a
Me.
quick one.
That's all I'm doing some Shining all the time.
I got 3 hours. We can do a Kubrick if you want.
Let's do some Kubricks, guys.
Go ahead.
No, but like there's just something about Matthew McConaughey and like his total down-to-earthness likability that really like makes this film like makes me be able to put away some of the pretentiousness of this film and like it a lot more, because I'm like there's just he's so likable and like he makes it feel so much more homey, I guess is like what I like, I don't know, and it works. I think like the total art cinema nature of like Nolan partnered with someone as homey as McConaughey works, and I think it's the same thing that made True Detective work in the first season.
Right.
Like I think McConaughey adds a humility to pieces, which is nice.
It's what made Mud work too, was sort of the thing of reconnaissance. But he did start doing this thing when me and my friends have this joke where it's like they started doing the thing where it's just like, I'm going to talk a little bit softer and more deeper, and people are going to start taking me more seriously.
Fun
and
fact.
they did.
He's friends with someone my dad golfs with. So like last year he came to their like fundraiser event and did a speech, and he was like, but I know it, all you really want me to do is do this. And he just goes, all right, without anyone asking him to do it.
And everybody was like, hell yes, thank you.
And everyone was like, that
like
is
the
exactly
opposite of
what
Chadwick
we want.
Boseman. He's like, I'm fucking sick of doing the Wakanda thing.
Dude,
McConaughey's
like,
all right, forever.
McConaughey cashed it. It's like a brand now. His brand is literally JK Living, which is his thing. Like, just keep living, man. And it's just like, he made a brand out of it, and he has shirts that say, all right.
No, I was going to say McConaughey's not like Chadwick. Chadwick's over it. McConaughey is like, this is my legacy.
This is what is paying for my kid's college right now, is this word 3 times.
Yeah, he started doing the thing where it's just like, I'll get deeper and people will start taking me more seriously. There's a great time is like a flat circle. There's a great parody of True Detective on YouTube where you can find it, where it's like, somebody told me to start actually reading the scripts before I do the movies. And since then I only make good films. Finally, the last thing that I have about Interstellar, and this is going to be a 3-hour podcast, but the just complete throwaway roles by Jessica Chastain and Casey Affleck. Yeah. Casey Affleck's in the movie for 5 minutes.
I forgot that he was.
Casey Affleck is completely forgettable. He's playing the brother from Field of Dreams. Just Burn the Farm. Who fucking cares?
Oh my god, I love Field of Dreams.
Incredible. Dex, you're number 4. Sorry, we just ranted and raved.
I mean, it's fine. It's Batman Begins. I don't really like.
Oh hell yeah!
I have a whole lot to add about Batman Begins. We already talked about it.
Batman Begins, man, that thing blew my I will say one thing about the Nolan Batman thing that I meant to say about the Batman films, that it suffers to me sometimes because it's like that movie has 2 villains. Like, why he does that with every film though. But I don't know. I just having also Ra's al Ghul come back in that sort of defeats the purpose of the Scarecrow.
The Dark Knight also has 2 villains.
That's what I'm saying. They all have 2
like
villains.
Spider-Man 2 has 2 villains. Like, you can do 2 villains and do it well.
I think sometimes it's nice to have 2 villains because I feel like a lot of times there's like a close to home threat and a more general threat. Like I think a lot of times that's the dynamic, like with like Two-Face being the more close to home threat in Dark Knight, and then Joker being the slightly more removed threat.
True. Also, like Ra's al Ghul has to like train him and stuff. So it's necessary.
Go ahead, Jake.
It's on a list. It's not on my list. The only reason I don't like Begins compared to the other 2 is, and I think it's because he had to, but it feels slightly more comic booky compared to the other 2.
Yes.
everything that's I forgot what the shitty part of town is called.
Gotham.
New York City is the shitty part of Gotham.
It's all one terrible place.
It's just no, like
It's all Staten Island.
it's just all
Someone
fucking
just
Staten
asked,
Island.
"What's the bad part of town?" To Batman, who's like, "It's all bad."
Just waves his hand there. But like where Katie Holmes is when they like release the stuff through the sewers, like it's very it's very not Clooney, but Keaton Batman. Like it's a little campy. The whole fight scene on the monorail with Ra's al Ghul, like it's a little more like Gotham is somehow like retro futuristic. But
Why was Katie Holmes replaced?
She had a kid.
Money, probably.
Is that it? Like she
No,
had
I don't
children?
know. I don't know.
Scientology?
I don't know if she had a kid, or it's just like
straight
we're
up,
just like
Maggie
we're not.
Gyllenhaal is way better casting choice anyway. So
I agree. I just was curious why she was.
It was probably like we don't want to deal with whatever her and Tom got going on right now in the mid 2000s.
I was just curious because I don't dislike her, Rachel. I just like don't love it. I don't know.
she walked away.
Oh, she just left. Interesting.
Walked away from
Okay.
payday, probably. All right, Jake, number 3.
My number 3 is Dark Knight Rises.
Ooh,
Mhm.
Interesting.
lower.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what is there to say about it past how kick-ass of a villain Bane is. Like
Until he's absolutely not.
yeah, until he gets.
Oh, you
punched in
said
the
Dark
face,
Knight Rises. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I thought you said.
Until he gets punched in the face a little bit and then isn't. But I mean, people still fucking do the Bane voice. Like if a movie that came out almost a decade ago, and we're still talking about Tom Hardy like that.
I'm
lends
really
itself-
hot and I have a mask on.
Time to go mobile.
His tan line from that movie is objectively the funniest thing that I've ever seen.
The fact that Bane had some actually really good points politically. His execution was way off, but like the man had some points.
I saw a meme about that where they were like, should we actually enact a Banian republic? Like,
Dude had some ideas.
he's like, mass incarceration is bad.
There would be there would be enough people today in today's society to be like, let's hear the maniac out. Let's hear the
Everybody,
dude.
bro, would be like, let's go with Bane.
Yeah, like
I
they're
mean-
just Bane bros. We have Bane
Well,
bros.
no, actually, people wouldn't side with Bane because he's wearing a mask.
Hey, we were talking about this. I don't know.
Oh, I was thinking. I was
Time is
talking
completely
about.
meaningless, but we were talking about like right-wing
Bane's
propaganda
like a
films.
neoliberal.
This is a straight right-wing propaganda film a little bit because really all Bane is pushing is socialism, and he's the villain.
Yeah.
He
Well, a
blew
lot
up
of
football because he hates America.
And we have to have a billionaire come in and save us.
what a lovely singing board.
But no, it's awesome. I
My
mean,
favorite
it's like-
thing is that
it's-
Hines Ward returns a touchdown and has no idea that the field is exploding behind him.
Because Hines Ward has never had that much speed in his life.
He's never returned a kick.
I don't understand the sports.
Go ahead. Jake.
But I mean, it's a war film. Like it's cool to have a war film as disguised as superhero film.
Again, soundtrack fire.
Yeah,
Really good
Joseph
song.
Gordon-Levitt as Robin, quote unquote, fire.
Super
Sad that
good.
never panned out into anything.
The
JGL,
the
though,
rise
man.
the rise scene is incredible in that.
Mm-hmm.
These are all on Netflix,
Bane-
right? I
Bane-
need to rewatch them.
Bane blowing that back out.
Liam Neeson showing
Literally.
up as a ghost. Yoda's himself into that prison.
All I can think about of The Dark Knight Rises is that stupid parody from College Humor where she stabs him and he's like, "But we totally had sex." And he's just like, yeah, I know. He's like, Like, yeah, I hadn't even showered. This suit really traps in the flavor. A is for Alfred. B is for Bat.
Was that Pete Holmes?
Yeah, it was. Those are still on YouTube. That's great. Dex, number 3.
Caitlin's favorite, Inception.
Hell yeah.
Gosh.
It's great.
I'm sorry. It's great. And you're just wrong. The ending is
I'm
greatness.
not wrong. A lot of people don't like it.
I don't know why you think
Records-
people agreeing with you makes you right.
Records
You
Not
bring
how
up
things
people
work.
agree.
records
you
would
just-
show
You
that
just said that people don't like Harrison Ford, so you're right. You can't
Yeah,
throw
what?
that back at
I didn't
Caitlin.
say
Yeah,
people
that's
don't like
bullshit.
Harrison Ford.
Well,
I'm
also,
telling you.
Dex, you pulled this on me many times where you're like, most people disagree with you, Caitlin. I'm like, okay. Like,
I'm telling you as a black person that black people don't like Harrison Ford nearly as much as white people do. But what I'm saying is just because you hold an opinion and other people also hold it doesn't make it correct. And like Inception,
Yeah.
a lot
this
of
is good.
people don't like Inception. It's rated as like the number 5 movie on IMDb.
I didn't say a lot of
Oh.
people don't like it. I'm saying like people
There are
don't-
some
it's
people who
not-
don't like it, therefore it's trash.
Well, it can be like personally a movie I don't like. I
True,
have
it can
reasons for
be.
not like. There are a lot of people in women's studies who think it is one of the most misogynistic films ever made, and I will agree with them. I think it is. It's like very negative. Like anyway, I won't go into it, but like there's a lot of weird latent misogyny in all of Nolan's films, and I don't need to go delve that
The movie's
deep into
great.
that.
The ending's great. The top stops spinning, and then everyone's happy.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Caitlin, number 3.
Where's my notes? Oh, The Prestige. We don't need to talk about it.
Okay. Jake, number 2.
Technically, number 2 would be The Prestige. I left it off the list because we already talked about it. So instead, I will be going Inception, which I think all around we agree is fantastic.
Inception's my number 2, so we can go ahead and talk about it really quick. This movie blew my mind when I was like 15. Now it's probably come down a little bit since then, but seeing
Its
this,
rewatchability is different.
yeah, seeing this in theaters and just from a technical aspect though, like story be damned, the technical aspect of all of this is one of the best things that I think I've seen ever on screen.
Mhm.
I think I like it's rarely been topped where I've just seen stuff and I've like, and it's often since been copied. Like just some of the things that I don't know. It just is incredible filmmaking. And it's also like a pretty committed performance from everyone in a very much a summer blockbuster, which you don't often see very often. And it's not Leo's best acted performance by any stretch of the imagination, but Tom Hardy, you get your introduction to Tom Hardy in this movie pretty much, or at least general audiences did, and he was great. And I think this one after the Prestige was one of those ones where I was just like, oh, this is what blockbusters can be. Like this is what these movies can be. And I just think, I don't know, man. I was blown away. I just the rewatchability is different now, but I was just blown away, and I still continue to be blown away by the things that he did in that movie.
I mean, story be damn sure, whatever. If you look at it just from like the cultural zeitgeist, this is a movie that's still the cornerstone of like whenever you talk about like, oh, movies are just cookie cutters or you just have Avengers movies, why can't you think of something original like Inception? Like that's the foundation now that people always use is like, this was an original idea. This was so good. Why can't we make films like this anymore? Like, even though it's a movie that came out, in 2010?
Yeah, 2010.
So it's a decade old now. And it's still being talked about. Like, people still talk about the ending, even though Nolan came out and said what it is. It's still talked about. It's still a celebrated movie.
Mm-hmm.
The
that we're
practical
now-
effects are so dope. Like even watching the behind the scenes stuff.
Joseph
is, like,
Gordon-Levitt
riveting in itself.
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt running in that hallway.
Yeah.
Is that still blows my mind to this day. And also the interwoven time loops of okay, well, we're gonna have 30 minutes at this level and an hour at this level, and it just the comedy of the trucks falling slowly off the bridge and everything like that is it. I don't know, man. It's just incredible. The use of slow-mo in this is some of the best I think I've ever seen as well too. But
it's just so on the nose. Like, I don't know. Like, I cannot get over the fact that he named literally one of the main central female characters Mal, which means bad. Like, which is to say that it means Mal. He uses a lot of Latin throughout the entire text. Like, Ariadne is like the maze goer. Like in Greek mythology and in Roman mythology, she's literally a maze goer, which makes sense in the context of the show. But Mal literally is supposed to mean bad. Like, and there's a lot of interesting feminist discourse on Inception being a pretty fucked up movie towards its women, and not giving them a lot of or not like, but Mal essentially as an almost unredeemable character, which
unfortunately her brain broke, so
yeah. But I mean, it's just like one of those things where it's like, I don't know, I won't get into it, but like I've never super loved it, and I feel like naming characters like pretentious bullshit like Ariadne when you're intended, like, I don't know,
that was pretentious. I remember going like, what, why just not name her like.
And he does that because in mythology she literally goes through the labyrinth, like that is her myth, and I'm like, that you're trying to be so smart, and it makes me tired. I don't know.
Sorry, I
Caitlin,
said that.
what's your number 2?
Oh, Dark Knight.
Inception. Oh.
Yeah, I fucking love it. No. A+. Let me shit on it, an A+. No, The Dark Knight's my number 2.
Royden, what were you about to say?
I messed up. My number, we just did number 2s or number 3s?
We
did
did
2s,
what is your number
right?
3? I don't have a 3 for you.
My number 3 is Memento. I think I fucked up and skipped some stuff. Yeah, my number 3 is Memento. We talked about it at length. It is blew my mind whenever I saw it, and I think it really needs to be seen by more people also, if you haven't seen it. And they're trying to remake it, which I don't agree with, which I don't know why you would.
Why would you remake that?
I don't know, but Christopher Nolan's involved in it, so I don't, it's kind of
want to fix it. There's not.
Maybe.
There's a lot you could actually fix with Memento.
I don't know.
Not to be.
But yeah, that's my number 3. So do we have everybody's number 3?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that is my number 3. So do we do number 2 for you, Dex?
The Prestige.
The Prestige. All right, and your number 2 is The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's hard to argue with Heath Ledger's performance being like one of the most brilliant of all time, and like it's just a fucking good movie. Like, it's one of those that I have like almost nothing negative I could say about The Dark Knight. It revolutionized superhero films, and it's annoying to hear. The only reason it's not my number 1 pick is how annoying it is to hear people talk about how it revolutionized superhero films. Like,
the discourse around it
sucks, and the movie is almost perfect. I just don't want to give it my top rating because I cannot bend to that. That's it.
Yeah, we just talked about it at length. I think I kind of got lost in our own rankings. My number 2 is Inception. I love that movie. Sorry. Yeah.
Jake, what was yours? Inception?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was just checking.
What was your number 3, Jake?
Dark Knight Rises.
Okay.
Yeah.
We just got I got lost in my own snake. Go ahead, Jake. Your number 1.
Dark Knight.
Yep.
Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Dark Knight is mine. We'll go ahead and talk about our number 1s real quick, and then Caitlin can be wrong. And
I'm not wrong. I gave a good reason why I'm not picking Dark Knight for
It's very true. The discourse
you
around
gave a reason.
I think it's a good reason. I have a reason why I picked my number 1 that's sentimental, but I'm not going to argue with you guys that it's probably his best film.
The Dark Knight, for it being a superhero film and it being as popular as it was, it's a perfect movie. Like, it's up there with, like, I say this is the same thing. I've only ever called a few movies perfect. Like, Into the Spider-Verse to me is also a perfect film, but for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
And and just seeing something like this, And in 2008, everyone's collective brain broke in half, where we were just like, oh,
Yeah.
you can do this? Because we'd always, it's like Batman's always had been like, and of course you'd had Batman Begins before this, but Batman Begins had always been like, Batman had never been subversive. You know what I mean? Like, of course the Keaton Batmans were kind of dark in their own right, but they're still silly and campy and, you know, and
you have the Penguin eating trying to eat a cat, and you
Yeah.
have Michelle Pfeiffer eating a fucking bird. Like, it's
Yeah.
goofy as shit. Like,
yeah, they're still
not
Tim
the
Burton-esque and like comic booky and everything. You had the Adam West and like, George Clooney stinks in those in
Yeah.
those movies and everything. But like, for them to come out and portray the Joker as this guy, which we had all seen in the animated series as, oh, this guy's a madman, and not just kind of this Looney Tune.
Ow.
Yeah, this clown, literal clown. And for him to put that much commitment into it to where it's been parodied a billion times.
Mhm.
and never as successfully. Like,
No.
I love Joaquin Phoenix, and I think Joker's okay, and I think he
Yeah.
did a good. I
That
think he
movie
did.
Fuck off my
stinks.
podcast.
Movie
think-
fucking stinks.
I think it's okay. I think like his performance was not even the best I've seen Joaquin Phoenix do. Walk the Lines, by far, I think his best performance of his career.
Yes.
But like, I mean, it
Seen my
was
Walk the Line
fine.
episode.
But like, I think for me, what's so sad is like they do try to replicate it all the time, but you just cannot hit what Heath Ledger hits. Like,
So committed,
just
and he
can't.
just shits on everyone in this movie, and it's so
Yeah.
incredible. Like, he walks all over Batman. I don't know what y'all think. Like, and of course, like the technical aspects of this, everything is pretty much non CGI. Like, they flip a, they flip a truck in the middle of a city. It's the filmmaking, the way it's colored. It's just so
the makeup art is so interesting for Joker too, because like I had
looks
never
like
seen
he did it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I had never seen a Joker that didn't look just so like a professional makeup artist did your makeup this morning. Like, and the cuts like actually being gruesome and gritty and real. And like, I don't know. It's just, I agree. It's a perfectly made film.
Y'all
And
have any-
also, Christopher Nolan gives a fuck about Batman as a
Yeah.
character.
yes.
Helps. Like, clearly.
Cares about his backstory and cares about his emotions and things like that. I don't know.
Yeah, he's not like super duper into like a bunch of like random ass Batman comics. Like he didn't like go all out reading a bunch of stories, but like the ones that he read, he like actually read and understood them and like put them on film.
Also, this being an allegory about the Iraq War is very funny.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing I can say about the story that hasn't been said for a film that's a decade old now, 12 years, something like that. But this is the Nolan Apex Mountain to steal from the rewatchables. Like, you don't. This is what he gets carte blanche from Warner Brothers now, because Warner Brothers is still getting a massive check every year from people watching Dark Knight. Like, the whole reason that Tenet now is holding the entire movie industry together is because of Dark Knight. Like,
I agree.
that's what put Christopher Nolan into houses. Like, if you were cool, you knew The Prestige and Batman Begins because it was still a little campy. It was more of a superhero film, and it probably could have been lost to the annals of the history if we didn't get Dark Knight. And Memento, like, nobody gave a shit about it until much later. But Dark Knight is what put Christopher Nolan in your house, put him on your TV. It's what gave Warner Brothers a shit ton of money and tried to form the DCU.
Still keeps TNT on the air.
Yeah, but like you don't get Inception or Interstellar or Dunkirk or Tenet or anything like without the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
One of my favorite closing lines ever, too.
Which one?
Dark Knight.
What is
Oh,
the
okay.
quote?
Uh,
Oh yeah, I
but
know it.
he's
I
a
know it.
Dark
I'm
Knight.
stupid. Yeah, I'm stupid. I know.
I just, man, I think I could talk about this movie forever, and the rewatchability of it is bar none. I think it'll hold up when people are studying films years from now. They'll be like, "Oh, this still looks great." So I mean, it's I don't know, it's so good, man. Caitlin, your number one, is it Memento?
It is Memento.
Why?
And like for dumb reasons probably. But like, so the first Nolan film I ever saw was Prestige, and the second Nolan film I ever saw was Memento. And I liked Prestige as a kid and like rewatched it a little bit older. But wasn't in a normal high school in high school. I did dual credit all through high school because I thought I wanted to be an actress. So I like did audition. I did auditions in the day and went to community college at night. And so like I was in a college film class when I was 15, and the first like real film like movie that someone showed me that like was an actual kind of like art film was Memento. Like, and it was the first time I kind of realized like what you could do with a movie, I guess. Like
Sure.
what you could do narratively that like you couldn't really do in any other medium, because otherwise I've always been kind of like books could do it better. And like Memento was the first time where I was kind of like, I don't even know how you put that in a written medium, like what you're showing. I don't know. So it just has like a weird sentimental place in my heart where I think it's one of his most like, I think it's like his passion project. Like it's the movie that he really, I think, felt the most about. Like it's what he's the most obsessed with. And I think it's interesting as a film. I think like, I don't know. I just love it. I rewatched it a bunch.
It's his American Graffiti. It's that.
Yeah.
It's the doctoral thesis film where he gets to say what he wants because no production company really is going to fund this or gives a shit, so he can finally just say it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like I think for me that's why I actually really like it, and it's why Nolan's still a director I like, because he's produced films I don't like as much. And like I don't know.
Wouldn't have guessed you don't like any. Is there a particular one you don't like?
I don't know. Like Inception's like my fucking favorite. Like I'm putting it as, I'm ranking it 0 because it just goes beyond the list.
It's infinity.
Yeah, it's infinity. It
goes beyond
ad infinitum.
The thing about you were saying you shall like somebody in college or like community college showed you this, that makes so much sense.
No, yeah.
That's like the biggest like, have you seen Memento?
No, and I had like never watched a movie that was like pretentious really before. And like I don't know. That sounds stupid and self-deprecating, but it's like he was like my first introduction into like experimental film kind of, and it's not even that experimental. Like
just a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Memento, I mean, I didn't get to talk about it really at my number 3. It is one of those things where it's like, I remember my uncle being like, have you seen Memento? And he's he's a big film guy, and he fell asleep during the middle of it. And I could not believe that he fell asleep because it was the craziest thing that I think.
So much. How do you? Well, I guess if you've seen it before.
Yeah, if you've seen it in your 30s, you're just like whatever. But like,
I'm tired.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I stayed up way past my bedtime to watch that movie.
I love that movie.
It's very good. And Christopher Nolan, man, please wear masks, guys. I just want to see Tenet. I just want to see Tenet in theaters.
For some reason, the way you keep saying it, I keep like forgetting there's a movie called Tenet, and I keep thinking you're talking about the man who played Doctor Who, David Tennant, and I'm like, what is he doing?
I mean, I love David Tennant.
I'm like, what projects is David Tennant doing?
David Tennant's great.
DuckTales. Woo.
Woo!
DuckTales. Yeah. So please, I want to go to theaters again. We passed the empty AMC today, and it hurt my heart. I just want to see
my
movies,
mom
man.
keeps like trying to peer pressure me to go to the drive-in with her. She's like, I miss movies so much.
Go to the drive-in. Okay.
Go to the drive-in.
Like, there's just no good movies, really, because there's nothing new.
Anything.
So it's like, do I want to watch
Every movie
Jurassic?
is trash.
Do I want to watch Jurassic Park yet again for the like 80th time in my life? Like, no.
It's not like you're doing anything else.
I am doing other things. I have grad school.
She's throwing up.
She also has comedy going on.
I actually do somehow. Like they're doing weird live stream comedy events, and I'm like, please stop doing that.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Please
it's not
stop
fun.
doing comedy.
To no audience.
I am getting paid though. Like I just wish I wasn't like doing it.
You don't have to.
I do need the money.
I was like, you literally do not have to do that. All right, guys, 2 hours, 45-minute podcast is what we're rolling up on.
There's chunks that we're cutting out. We're okay.
All right, guys. You can follow us at the One Take Pod. That is the number one Take Pod on all platforms, not Facebook, because no. And you can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram at One Take Pod. You can also follow us on Reddit, actually, which I need to go check. You can follow us there. You can email us at onetakepodcastshow@gmail.com. That's onetakepodcastshow@gmail.com. Stream us on Spotify, Apple, and Google, or if you want to just stream us directly on your desktop, go to onetakepod onetakepod.simplecast.com, onetakepod.simplecast.com. Please download, rate, subscribe. If you follow us on Spotify, please download the podcast there as well, and as well follow us on Spotify as well. That really helps out our algorithm, and also helps out our algorithm if you rate, download, and subscribe on Apple. You might get to pick our next film and or come on the podcast. But we will be doing a film next week. I don't know. We'll be doing something. We'll announce it. Again, follow us on Twitter, Instagram. We'll be announcing it. Dex, what are we doing?
Hashtag support Florence Pugh. Hashtag don't do crime. Hashtag I do comedy.
Hashtag Harrison Ford.
Daddy.
Harrison Ford is very much.
Do you call Harrison Ford daddy?
Hashtag Harrison Ford is a white's god.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll announce what.
Sorry.
We'll announce what we're doing on Twitter next week. All right. Peace.
We out.
I forgot we did an actual closing, so I thought we were done.
And stopping recording on Zoom.